Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live television network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. Our guest today is the physician Cary Presant. He's an MD, wrote the book Surviving American Medicine. Dr. Presant, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Thank you very much, Josh. It's nice to be with you today and all of our listeners.
Thank you. Happy to have you here. And for our listeners, what is your educational background?
Well, I'm an MD, a doctor. I'm an oncologist, and I studied at the University of Buffalo and then went to the State University of New York at Buffalo Medical School. Following that, went off to Columbia University to be at Presbyterian Hospital in New York City, then to the National Cancer Institute, then to Washington University, which is in St. Louis, an excellent university, in Barnes Hospital, and then from there to City of Hope National Medical Center, where I ran the cancer program for years, and now I'm a professor at University of Southern California and have a practice throughout Los Angeles.
Now, having read your book, Surviving American Medicine, what was the reason that you felt you had to write this book?
Well, you know, we have books about certain diseases, and when you have books about diseases, you know for diabetes what to do for diabetes or heart disease or cancer, but you don't really know how to use the healthcare system. And now that there are so many different aspects of healthcare reform, reforms in insurance, reforms in new technology, reforms in how doctors deliver care to their patients, I kept on getting bombarded by my patients' questions and then my family's questions and my friends. We'd go and meet at a party and someone would get me by the shoulder and say, I've got this problem. What do you think I ought to do about it?
Right.
So all these problems were stories of patients who were not doing well with the healthcare system. So I would give them advice. So one person's advice would stay with one person.
Right.
After a while, it became apparent that these problems were very common. Lots of people had problems with insurance. How do you deal with insurance companies and denials? So I decided I would write the book to help more people all the time to be able to have information at their hands when they have a problem with their own health care, with their health care usage, the doctor's office or the hospital or the insurance or their medications, or what's their diet or what's their exercise pattern. What should they do? How do they talk to their doctors more effectively? How do they get the answers? How do they make certain they have the right doctors for them? How do they know that they have the right insurance? And when that insurance suddenly says, oh, no, you can't have something, what do they do about appealing that decision so they actually can get what the doctor wants them to get? So I began to accumulate the stories of my patients. And those stories are in the book, Surviving American Medicine. Those stories show people that the problems they may be experiencing themselves or in their families, that those problems are not unique. Lots of people have faced them before. Lots of people have overcome them before. And the book gives tips in every chapter on how you can overcome these obstacles in your own care. Obstacles in how you keep healthy, how you prevent disease, as well as obstacles in terms of how do you take care of minor or serious illnesses that we all will get sometime. And if we don't get them, our spouses, our families, our kids, our friends will get them. And we're here for each other. So one way that I can be there for everyone else is to transmit these stories and all these tips of how you use the American healthcare system. Now, you know, our healthcare system is truly the best in the world.
Yes.
The problem of accessing that system is larger and larger. As healthcare reform gets more complex, doctors are more difficult to communicate with. And how much time do you get at your doctor's office? Well, I mean, you may just get a few minutes. How do you make certain you get all the information that you need? Information about keeping healthy, information about preventing heart disease or preventing diabetes, preventing cancer. How do you make certain you get the doctor's attention? Hello, doctor, I want you to listen to me. How do you make certain that they...
Okay, let
they
me
get
ask
there?
you a question then.
Yes.
And this is actually kind of a two-part question. You've been practicing medicine literally since the mid-'70s. Is
Yes,
that correct? Okay.
correct.
So at one time, you were a very young man working on patients who may have been of our parents' generation. And now you're working on patients really of your generation, our generation, and younger ones. Is there a difference now in the way the patients perceive the physician?
There is, and I think that's part of the reason the book is so very, very important. Surviving American Medicine, which is available at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, bookstores can order it. This book gives answers to people who, in the past, in my parents' generation, would just go to the doctor. They'd get a half-hour visit. How are you, Joe? What you doing? Sally, what's up with the family? And they'd know the family very, very well. And there wasn't that much to do in medicine because we had limited drugs, limited tests, and you could only do so much. So in that half-hour visit, you'd get everything you need. So you'd transmit that trust totally to the physician. That can't happen today.
Wait, excuse me. Are you saying that since you've been a practicing physician and you've been an oncologist,
Yes.
that from 1975, I'm just picking that number, to today, that the practice of medicine is just completely different?
It's completely different in the last 3 years. It's completely different in the last 10 years, and it's been changing ever since the 60s. And it's been changing since the 60s because the insurance format has changed. We now have Medicare. We have Medicaid. We have insurance companies that have different types of products. Used to be there was nothing called an HMO. Now we not only have HMOs, but now we have the new ACOs from the Affordable Care Act, from Obamacare, that now will be delivering care in a slightly different way than everyone has delivered it in the past. As we change how we deliver care, there are new skills, new talents that the patients need to be able to use the healthcare system better, to be able to get their doctor's attention. The doctor now pays a lot of attention to what the insurance company wants you to do, not necessarily what's best for you.
Well, that's terrible, isn't it?
Well, it is, because the doctor has a choice. Well, Mrs. Smith, this is what I think is best. But if I really do all those things for Mrs. Smith, the insurance company will say, you're using all these resources so much. You've got to stop it, otherwise we're going to stop your contract with our insurance company. So now, all of a sudden, the doctor has a bit of a conflict of interest, doesn't he or she? Has to decide, gee, should I do everything possible for Mrs. Smith?
Mm-hmm.
Or should I make certain that the insurance company still is okay with me? Even our
that does seem like a lot of pressure. That a physician, I mean, we all have to earn a living, and I understand that, but it does seem that maybe the patient is not getting the best possible care at this point. Well,
there is, and one of the chapters in the book is on problems with physicians, physicians who may be getting sick themselves, physicians who may be burnt out, physicians who might have a conflict of interest. And there are tips in that chapter, and one of the tips is you just simply say to the doctor, well, now, doctor, is this what you would recommend for me if I were your family? Or would you recommend something slightly more or slightly different? And doctor, I mean, are you giving me what you think I need or what the insurance company will be willing to pay for? And if there's a difference, what is it that would be extra that you'd like me to have? I want what's good for me. I want to do well. I want to be healthy. I want to get cured. I want to get my diseases under control. And I want to feel very, very positive about things. So there are tips of exactly which questions you should ask your physician.
Can I ask you an emotional, this is an emotional question. So let us say that you or I go out and we go to the men's clothing store and we want to buy a beautiful suit and we want to spend $2,500 on a suit. If the salesman's a jerk, we figure, okay, but we want that suit and we've got the $2,500, we're going to buy that beautiful suit. But with healthcare, you're hoping, I'm sick. This is serious business. Someone will pay attention to me and give me quality advice and quality care. So is it wrong for the patient to think, I shouldn't have to ask? I'm sick. You're the healer. Help me. Give me the best possible advice. Is that naive on my part to think?
Well, it deals with the question which you asked before, the excellent question of, has medicine changed? We used to transmit all our trust to the doctor, and the doctor would do everything in their power to treat you. Right. Today, the doctor may not do everything in their power to treat you because, A, They might not have enough time to understand what your problem really is.
But that's
They
their
might
fault. They need to
Yes.
take the time. If I'm sick with something like cancer, I don't care if they've got 7 other patients. I'm not interested in the 7 other patients. I expect you to sit with me not for 5 minutes, but for the time it takes you to explain to me what I need to do, what these procedures will mean to me. Is it wrong for me to think that?
No, it's right for you to think that, but it is impossible to deliver that type of care nowadays.
Oh, my
You know,
goodness.
we have the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, and now that we have that transition in healthcare reform, we're going to have 30 million more Americans with health insurance. No more doctors, same number of doctors, same number of offices, 30 million more Americans clamoring for care. What's the doctor to do? Just shut the door? No, because the doctor really wants to give good care to all those who need it. So as a result, your time that you have gets smaller and smaller. So in the book, Surviving American Medicine, I've given answers as to how you get more attention from your doctor. Your office visit has to be more efficient, so you get all those questions answered. You have to ask the right questions to the doctor. How am I going to prevent disease? How am I going to understand which diseases, based on my family history and my health habits, what are the diseases I'm likely to get, and how are we going to prevent them, and how are we going to do tests to screen for them? So if I'm getting one of these, I pick it up very early so I can get cured.
Right.
I can get it controlled. Right now we have problems that patients get diagnosed with more advanced disease. Well, with more and more patients clamoring for care coming into the offices, the doctor has to really be extra specially careful in ordering all the tests to detect these diseases, again, at early stages when they can be treated well. In the book, in every chapter, there's a discussion of healthcare reform, what it means about differences in the care that you're going to receive. Also, tips, actual tips of what you can do to get more attention, the right attention, and to get the right care so you do well, and your family does well, and your children do well, and your friends do well. There are chapters on how you care for your friends or your family or the elderly or the infirmed, and all these are important because it helps you not only to be a good patient yourself, but also to be a good caregiver for other people. Now, these are important things because you might have a doctor today that's a great doctor for you. So, Josh, you go to the doctor and you say, well, this is a doctor I've been with for so long, and what a terrific doctor, just terrific. And suddenly something happens. The doctor has finally had it with all the forms they have to fill out. The doctor has had it because now, with a reduction in payments for services, he has or she has to let a person go from their office, and suddenly the office isn't running like it used to run. And maybe you've had the experience like I have, where suddenly my doctor isn't quite as good with me as the doctor used to be. So I have a little mini test in the book. Is the doctor the right doctor for you? And you can measure how good your doctor is. It takes very little time to do that. And so what I did was I decided I'm going to do that with my doctors and see how good my doctors are. And my doctors, you have different doctors for different diseases. We're all very good, except one of my doctors flunked the test. Now, here I am. I'm a doctor, and I've written the book. I know about what's going on. And yet I failed to see how this doctor was suddenly not as good as they had been a couple of years ago. So this little mini test is a test that everyone can do with their doctors and see if their doctors are up to snuff and doing all the things that they expect from their physicians. And if they're not, there's a chapter, one of the most important chapters in the book is my 10 commandments on second opinions. How do you get a second opinion? How do you do it without angering your doctor? How do you do it?
Yeah, but can I jump in here?
Sure.
So if I'm the patient, I'm really completely uninterested in angering my doctor or not. My attitude is, if I'm sick with something, his or her job is to help heal me. I don't want to tiptoe around for them, not for a second. And I am rather resentful of the idea that I must tiptoe around. I'm thinking, no, hey, I have X disease. Your job is to heal me of this disease. And that is one thing that I'm concerned about, that the physicians, if they need to hire more personnel and make less income, well, okay. So I come at it from a consumer advocate point of perspective. I am really completely unconcerned with their financial well-being. I'm there because I'm a diabetic or I'm a cancer patient or I have X and I want good care. Now, you have mentioned earlier in the interview that from 1975 roughly to today that the practice of medicine is completely different. Have you been involved with any new tests, little medical tests, that have made things, in your opinion, remarkably better?
Yes, there are lots of developments that are so exciting for people. You only have to open the paper every day, and you'll see all kinds of new things that are being developed.
Right.
And you yourself know, all these things are out there. Is my doctor going to be on top of things and be able to tell me about these?
That does seem like an important issue.
And that's a very important issue. Your doctor has to take the time to tell you those things. And there are questions in the book that actually prompt the doctor to actually give you those answers. And one of the aspects that you mentioned was, well, I'm just going to go and ask my doctor, and I don't care what they say. If I need a second opinion, I'm going to go and get it. But remember, dealing with your doctors is one of the scariest things that people do. You're worried, are they going to tell you something terrible?
Right.
Are they going to tell you, Josh, you're doing great. Go out and do well. Or are they going to say, oh, I've got terrible news for you, Cary. You've got this condition. Mm-hmm. This is what we're going to have to do for. It's a scary time. And when you go into that doctor's office, you have only a few minutes, and it's a scary time, you might not be able to think of all the questions.
Exactly, right. Because you're not at your best.
So you have to take and write down the questions before you go. Exactly the question, how you want to ask it. Make certain you write down the answers when you are there. Make certain you have someone else with you so they can listen and be able to get those answers, and make certain that between the two of you, you understand completely what the doctor's saying. And if you don't understand it, you have to be able to have the courage, which I know you do, to say, Doctor, wait, hold on. I want to understand that a little bit more. Can you explain that again? But when you're being rushed through an office visit, you might not have the courage to say that, but yet someone else with you can do that.
I'm not sick right now. So if I was sick, then already, it's a different game because, you're sick.
Right, and the other thing to remember, too, is lots of us have smartphones. If you don't, you can get a very cheap recorder at any radio store. And you can actually record the advice that the doctor wants to give you.
Seems like a good idea.
Just say, Doctor, wait one second. I'm just going to turn on the recorder because I want to hear what you have to tell me about the exact diet you want me on and the medications, how you want me to take them, and what the side effects might be and interactions with other medications. And so this becomes a very important time. So don't forget to take all those little aids with you that make certain that your doctor can answer everything. We all need to be having that courage that you have, Josh, when you go into the doctor and say, I want everything right now.
Well,
but some people don't have quite that attitude.
Especially people of my parents' generation who, from my perspective, were trained to be very passive on healthcare issues.
Exactly.
And on my generation, the boomers, we see MDs as being smart. We know they're well-trained. But we also recognize they're not the only source of information about wellness. And that, I think, is one of the major differences that I see between my parents' generation and my generation. The whole idea of we want a cleaner environment, we like to exercise, we want to eat carefully, probably take supplementation possibly, and we don't see any of that as being a big deal. Whereas my parents' generation, literally, I'm speaking broadly, did none of that. They did none of that as a generation.
There were less resources available a generation ago to get information in understandable formats, in understandable forms for us to be able to take information to our doctor's office. It has become a new world, hasn't it?
Well, I do not really know. I'm not really sure it's a new world. I'm hoping to think that people are more informed and the technology is better. So, see, technology is fantastic. So, are you working on some new tests right now that you've been using to determine what type of chemotherapeutic agent is better for us?
Yes, I'm working right now with a new test that can predict exactly for patients which drugs will work in them and which drugs will be ineffective.
What's the name of that test?
The name of the test is the MIC assay, M-I-C-K. It's manufactured by a company called Diatech, D-I-A-T-E-C-H. And listeners and viewers can look that up on the internet. It's very available today.
Dr. Let me have that once again.
It's the MIC, M-I-C-K assay by Diatech, D-I-A-T-E-C-H.
And how long have you been using this test?
This test has been discovered about 10 years ago at Vanderbilt. I've been helping to work with it for about 5 years, and this has been very remarkable in how it's been able to help people to get the right chemotherapy personalized for them. And this is really one of the revolutions in medicine. isn't it? The fact that we now understand the genes that people have, and that these genes actually determine how we respond to any particular medication. We have to be certain that our doctors are up to snuff, and are current with understanding how to use this new gene technology, understand how to do the right tests so that the patients get the right medications.
Right.
This era of personalized medicine requires a dissemination of this information through programs very much like yours, where we can discuss these new issues through the media. One of the major changes between the prior generations and our generation is this use of technology to understand more about illnesses and more about diseases. There's more pressure on a patient to be more responsible for their own health care
Yes.
and their own well-being today than ever before.
Yes.
And listeners,
Probably a good thing.
and listeners to your show get good advice and get good information, but they have to take and write down that information, because the next step is to go to their doctors with questions that they can actually ask their doctors, get good answers, complete answers, so that they can get the best health care possible. This is a new generation. This is a generation when we have responsibilities for our own health care that we never had before. Responsibilities to understand a new test, like perhaps the MIC assay, a new type of screening for lung cancer, like CT scans to screen for lung cancer in smokers, new ways of looking at preventing disease, like early treatment with metformin to prevent diabetes from being very severe or becoming apparent. These types of things are very important. We all have to be responsible for ourselves. So in this book, I give my patient stories about how they might have missed doing that and what you can do to do better, how you can get second opinions. The foreword to the book was written by Fran Drescher. We all know her as the nanny. Cute voice, wonderful actress. But what people don't realize is that she's a cancer survivor. And it took her 9 opinions, 8 second opinions after the first opinion was wrong, to get the right diagnosis of her cancer.
If I can jump in here.
Sure.
Now, Fran Drescher, being a well-known actor, obviously is a woman of affluence. And so if a woman of affluence has had to go to 8 or 9 physicians before getting the correct diagnosis, not only is it upsetting, you think to yourself, oh my goodness, if Fran Drescher, with all her notoriety and money, is getting that kind of inadequate health care, what happens to the average person who is not a Fran Drescher, who goes to the physician? So it does make you, from my perspective, worry.
Yes, but everyone has the ability with the health care that they have. If you have insurance, you can get a second opinion. That second opinion will almost always be covered by the insurance. You just have to know how to ask for that appropriately and get referred to that, or refer yourself to that. And the book tells the tips of how you actually do that. It gives the internet sites that you can get trusted information from, and that trusted information can be a source as to who actually knows a lot more about my symptom or my disease than the doctor I may be with now. And the doctor may be wondering where to send you to get a second opinion. Who's the doctor who may be better? What's the center that might be better? And are you going to be willing to go? If you begin to ask those questions, where you can go and how you can get more information to help you as a team work together to get you better, you can get those referrals.
I do have a question, too, about
Sure.
a new item I saw in your book, a new idea, the idea of apoptosis, which is programmed cell death.
Yes.
So do you have, now that is considered, is that non-toxic when you work with a patient with cancer, you give them, do you give them thalidomide?
We use thalidomide today, and newer drugs that have been developed from the thalidomide structure to have newer drugs that have less side effects than thalidomide had. One of the things that we use today is we used genomic tests. We use our apoptosis assay, which is the MIC assay, is testing for apoptosis, to try to find the right medications for the right patient. But on your healthcare team, you need your doctor who's aware of all these new tests.
Right.
You need to have your hospital, which can deliver these tests. And sometimes a hospital might not be able to deliver them. You have to go to a different hospital. You have to know that your insurance will cover that new hospital. You have to make certain that you have your insurance company that's a good insurance company, not one that always says no, but one that even if they happen to say no, you know how to appeal that denial, and we tell that in the book, how do you appeal denials, so that you get the right health care. You have to have your family and friends, people who support you, and can give you additional information.
But that's a lot of things to have, isn't it?
Oh, but there's
and
one
I would
more.
say most people don't actually have all those, do they? They do not, I think.
I think many do not. But they don't, you have to realize Kobe Bryant doesn't win a championship by himself. That has become evident over the years. Nor LeBron James, nor anyone. You have to have a team, and the team has to work together. Last person on the team, your pharmacist. Pharmacist has to work together with everyone else so that you get the right drugs, affordable drugs, and know the interactions between drugs, and can get suggestions about different drugs the doctor might not have given you yet. And you can go to the doctor and ask, what about this new drug that I've heard about? How do I get that? And so this team works together very effectively for you. And when you have that team in place, you can really thrive, get good health care, prevent diseases. You can stay healthy. You can get diseases diagnosed early, get them cured, or get them controlled. So you can go forward in life with great satisfaction, great kind of confidence that you're getting the right health care. That's why I wrote the book, to make certain that people have this confidence.
Let me just take an identification. You're listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Network. My guest is Dr. Cary Presant. He's an MD, an oncologist, author of Surviving American Medicine. Now, I remember when Nixon started the war on cancer a long time ago. Is there now a blood test to determine if a person has cancer? Have they ever developed that, a blood test for cancer?
Yes, we have blood tests that can determine the presence of some cancers, and we use them for screening.
What cancers can we show with a blood test?
So, for example, we use the PSA test to screen for prostate cancer.
Right.
Now it's become a controversial test.
Right.
And why is that? Because it detects prostate cancer a lot. It can also detect cancer that might not have to be treated right away. So there's been a fear that if we detect cancers early, then maybe we overtreat those diseases, because some doctors want to treat everything right away.
Well, there has been some literature to support that, indeed, there has been much overtreatment.
Yes, but what we need to understand is that it's appropriate to find out what's wrong.
Right.
It's inappropriate to overtreat it.
Right.
It is appropriate to find out what's wrong and then consider what the right treatment should be. You know, it used to be that women who had breast cancer diagnosed always had a mastectomy. Now we know we can get by with just a little removal of those small amount of tissue, a lumpectomy, and that is entirely as curative as a mastectomy used to be, with much less side effects on a woman's well-being.
So then, in retrospect, radical mastectomies that were done to women in the 70s, 80s, 90s, maybe even today, were really not good science. They were not good science. They were just for some reason fashionable, much the way when you and I were young boys. I don't want to sound too overly harsh here, but when you and I were boys, everyone's tonsils were taken out as a matter of course, and now largely the tonsils are not taken out. So we recognize something that in 1956 we thought was very good science turns out to have been just fashionable and not good science.
That's correct. And
is that an overly harsh statement for me to make to you as a practicing physician?
No, because our understanding of the benefits and the risks of treatments, whether it be a medicine, whether it be surgery or radiation or new antibody treatments or biotherapy treatments, all these different types of interventions we understand much more about in terms of the new science. What are the side effects? A lot are much more than we used to appreciate.
Right.
What are the benefits? Some are much greater and some are much less than the benefits used to be. So in the book, there are tips of how you can discuss these new things with your doctor. So a doctor says, you have a condition X. This is what I want to do. So there's a list of questions in the book. So, doctor, if this were your wife or your family member, is this what you'd have done? What are the risks of this? What are the benefits? What are my options as a patient of other things I might do? If I have to take a medicine, is there a generic? Is there a program that can help to afford that by going to the pharmaceutical company and having them provide it to me because my income may be limited? So all kinds of things. And doctor, if you had this condition X, would you go and get a second opinion about it? Would you want another pathologist to look at the biopsy report? Would you like another radiologist to look at that x-ray? Can you send it out for me, and can you get that done? So these tips in the book can save your life.
Right.
They can avoid problems. They can avoid over-treatment of an illness, like maybe prostate cancer. They can avoid under-treatment of an illness, like maybe prostate cancer. I mean, all kinds of things can be undertreated or overtreated. You need the Goldilocks approach. You don't want too much. You don't want too little.
Right.
You just want the right amount of everything that's appropriate. And the book tells you how to get that. So Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, local bookstores, iUniverse.com. The book is available, and people should look at this book and think about how they're going to change their healthcare the next day, because it will change healthcare, and everyone who's gotten the book has really gotten a lot out of it. It's won the International Book Award as Best Book in Health and Wellness for last year, and we're very proud of that, because it means that the tips that are in the book are really tips worth knowing about and worth helping people. And Josh, that's why I so appreciate this type of opportunity to tell the listeners, the viewers today, why this book can help them and how medicine has changed, how much more we are responsible for our health.
That sounds very good. You've been listening to Dr. Cary Presant on this portion of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live network. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
Hey, shout us out. What's the count? I'm your host, Ferran Dozier. I'm inviting you to join me on WDC Radio every Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time as we discuss community topics around health, sports, and entertainment. So don't forget to shout us out. What's the count? On WDC Radio, only on LATalkLive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we're more than just talk. What's the count?
Hi, this is Susan Levin, owner and founder of Speaker Services, inviting you to join me and co-host Jean Noel Bassiar on Monday evenings, 5 p.m. Pacific, for our new show, Talk Up Your Business, Speak Your Way to More Profits. We'll be talking to you about how to use your expertise to grow your business or service through speaking. Our expert speakers and author guests will share their stories and success secrets with you. Don't forget to tune in to Talk Up Your Business Mondays at 5 p.m. Pacific, exclusively on LATalkLive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream.tv. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
People, it's Jennifer Tapia from StarCam. You guys might know me from the red carpet, catching up with all the stars, but guess what? We're bringing the red carpet to the radio right out here on LA Talk Live. I'm going live Thursday nights at 6 p.m. We got hot topics, celebrities, and much more. We were featured on Chloe Lamar on E!, Howard Stern, T.I.'s Family Hustle. You know how we do. So check it out on Thursday nights, 6 p.m. All things Hollywood, everything celebrity. StarCam Radio?
StarCam Radio? StarCam Radio!
Oh yeah, follow us on Twitter at StarCam Radio.
Hi, this is Dr. Levi, your fitness doctor, making a personal house call, inviting you to join me Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific for my all-new show, The Dr. Levi Show. Join us as we discuss fitness, health, and well-being. including emotional and spiritual health. So don't forget to tune in to the Dr. Levi Show every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, exclusively on latalklive.com and the Talk Live Broadcast Network. You can also catch us on iTunes, Radio R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv, or catch us on the Live 365 network, and now on Radio Flag and Stitcher Radio. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Dawn Christie inviting you to join me every Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific, for my all-new show, The Dawn Christie Show. Join me as I discuss love, spiritual readings, your purpose, why am I born, what am I here to do. So don't forget to tune in The Dawn Christie Show at 1 p.m. Pacific, exclusively on LA Talk Live. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream TV, reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live television network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. My next guest is James Barry, the executive chef who has been on my show several times with his wife, Margaret. And James is the author of the Naked Foods Cookbook. And James last time had a lovely food demonstration using squash as pasta, which was just fantastic, witty and intelligent and clever and everything you want in a food. And so James is back with it. James, thanks for being on my show.
Of course. Thanks for having me back. Hi, everybody. So today I wanted to talk about breakfast. It's a meal that a lot of people skip. And I'm sure most of you have heard it's one of the most important meals of the day. And I tend to ask a lot of people, so why do you skip it? And the things I hear are time. It's really time management. Most people want to grab something real quick and leave. And then what happens, though, is this is something that Margaret taught me, actually. Margaret Floyd of EatNakedNow.com. She's my wife and an exceptional nutritionist, a nutritional practitioner. So she mentioned that when you don't eat breakfast, it affects your dinner. So what happens is those people, and I'm sure there's a lot of you out there, and if you're being real with yourself, you should raise your hand right now, in the room you are listening to this, because most people skip breakfast and then later on they binge at night. So their dinner is huge. And that is because if you just ate your breakfast, you wouldn't be so hungry at night. It's a fascinating correlation, and if you it's one you can actually use yourself as a guinea pig. Just literally have breakfast and then notice how it affects your dinner later on versus when you don't have breakfast and then have your dinner. So I thought, well, why don't I show you a couple of smoothies? Now, these are real food-based smoothies. Most smoothies out there are some kind of protein isolate or whey protein. I mean, they're basically powders, most of them. And I am a real foodie. I like real foods. I'm a big fan of real foods. I tend to not go for foods that are made in laboratories, personally. And so if I can't find it in nature, then I tend to shy away from it. So these are all real food-based. And you'll find that by eating for example, I'm going to show you a green smoothie, which is basically like drinking a salad for breakfast. And it's actually very good, though. I'm going to show you one of those, and then I'm going to show you more of a fruit-based smoothie. With either of these smoothies, if you just hard-boil an egg, and you can do this the night before, but with one hard-boiled egg or soft-boiled or medium-boiled, however you like the egg, but just one egg and this smoothie, you will have a complete breakfast. So let's start. These are actually can be found in the Naked Foods Cookbook. That's a cookbook that I co-wrote with Margaret Floyd, and this is called, as I said, the green smoothie. So it's like you might be a little surprised. I'm actually going to take the romaine lettuce and I'm going to put it in there just like you would if you were having a salad. And I'm just going to break it up a little bit. Now I'm using a Vitamix, and I specifically mention this brand because you really do want a blender that's powerful if you're going to be doing this kind of stuff. You want to make sure that it can really shred and tear up the produce so that it gets it nice and smooth. So I put in one head of romaine lettuce. Then I'm also going to do a cucumber. Doesn't matter which one. You're using about half a cucumber, so here I have one. You don't have to peel it if you don't want to. Some people find that the actual peel of the cucumber is a little bitter, so you can peel that. Doesn't matter. You can leave the seeds and everything. I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to then take some parsley, literally just any parsley, curly parsley. This is Italian parsley. Either one is fine. And I'm just going to tear some off from the leaf. And we're going to put that in. I'm putting in about a handful or about half a packed cup. And then I'm using the juice of one lime, which I've already squeezed. And I'm going to put that in there. The lime and lemon in general, anything kind of acidic, just add a nice bolder kind of zing to the smoothie. I really like it. It heightens the flavor. I'm going to add half of a avocado. If I don't know how well you can see this, but it's kind of a nice trick. There's a couple things with avocado. So when you take it off, you have one half that has the seed in it, and then the other half doesn't. If you're not going to use the other half quickly, I would use first the one without the seed, because as long as it has a seed, it doesn't go brown as fast. Basically, that's one little trick.
Huh.
Yeah. So here's a little fun way to scoop out a avocado. If you're not sure of it, just use a spoon, and then you can throw it in there. And then you can use, now in the cookbook we recommend cashews. I've become a real fan of chia seeds. You remember those commercials with it grows hair, you know, it was that little plant with the chia? Well, now they're a popular omega-3 booster, if you will, that people are now they're realizing can be added to smoothies, can be added to granola, whatever kind of yogurts. And they're really great, actually. And all you have to do is you soak them in a little water, and they rehydrate, and they get very soft and almost kind of like boba-like, kind of gelatinous, and they blend really well in a smoothie. And it's a great source of omega-3s, which most of us are deficient with. It's omega-6s we have way too much of, right? So I just pre-soak these, and the trick to doing that is you use about 2 tablespoons about 2 tablespoons of chia seeds, and then you use almost a cup and a half, though, a lot more water to the chia seed, and you really want to make sure the chia seeds you're doing are more than covered. I'm talking like if you're putting it in a large bowl, I'll just demo on this bowl right here. So let's just say if I put in a cup of chia seeds down here, then I'm going to fill this almost about 3/4 of the way with water. And that's what you need to do to rehydrate them. And you want to keep mixing them as you're rehydrating them, because sometimes what happens is the top layer will start to absorb the water, but then the inside layer won't, and it will still be dry. So I'm going to basically put that in, and I'm not going to put all this in. About a fourth of a cup is fine, since I'm just making this for one person right now. And we use, as I mentioned, we use cashews, soaked cashews in the cookbook, but you can use either chia seeds or cashews. They both add a nice kind of fullness and creaminess to the smoothie, and that's why we're doing that, other than, of course, the nutritional benefit. And then that is it. Oh, then, of course, you can add some water. So you can add a little coconut water, which is going to be the natural sweetness, or you can add literally just plain water. I brought some coconut water, so I'm going to go ahead and add that. And you don't need too much. I would always, whenever I add liquid, I always do less at first, because you can never, if you go too far, it's hard. You can't. You have to add more ingredient, basically. But if you go below what you actually need, then you can always add more. But if you go too far, forget it. You know, you just got to add more lettuce. And then we use what we call a plunger to push the ingredients down. All right, it's going to get a little loud. So I'm going to add a little bit more. Oh, no, that's actually pretty good liquid. There we go. So it's mixing well now. That's it. And so then basically you add it to either your travel mug and you leave your house, or you can add it to a glass and drink it.
And James, that is parsley and lettuce and lime juice and flax oil. And chia seeds.
Chia seeds and cucumber and a little avocado. Yeah, so there's literally, what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ingredients. And then one of those ingredients is the water, coconut water. So, and you saw how quickly, I mean, I didn't use a knife really. I of course I had to, half the avocado, but for the most part I just threw things in there. So this is something you can make in 5 minutes or less. So there's suddenly no more excuses of, I don't have time for breakfast. And then ideally the night before you medium boil an egg, and the quickest way to medium boil an egg is so you get your water boiling with the lid on the pot, and then once it starts boiling, put the egg in, literally 6-7 minutes on your timer. Leave the lid off, just let it cook for 6-7 minutes. Time it. You hear the timer go off. Pull that egg out. Let's run some cold water on it, and now you have a medium boiled egg. I mean, literally, so we're talking all in all, this is about a 10 to 12 minute process. So very, very quick. No more excuses if I don't have time to eat breakfast. And this is like drinking a salad. I mean, you saw all the ingredients are very, very much what you would put in a salad.
So excuse me. So your work with this product has shown you that this avocado and chia combination will sustain blood sugar for 2 to 3 hours?
Yeah, the avocados, the fat, and of course the chias are as well. And then of course add that egg. The egg. If you want to make it a complete breakfast, you got to add that egg.
Right.
But this is also something, just in general, a lot of people sometimes need a snack throughout their day. It's a great, just without the egg, I'm just talking as a smoothie snack throughout your day.
When I was much younger, I was watching the Rocky films, the first one, and I remember Rocky threw in a raw egg into his protein drink. Do you think that's a good idea or a bad idea?
Well, Margaret's the nutritional expert, and I'm a big fan of, I actually don't mind a raw egg. The key, though, is the quality of the egg. If you're getting a conventional egg, I wouldn't chance it.
What's the downside?
Well, the downside is so the conventional egg is coming from chickens that aren't eating normal chicken foods. So they're being fed grains and soy and whatever else, and a lot of sometimes medicines to keep them healthy in these cramped conditions. So you don't really know the quality of that egg when it's coming from a conventional. You can pretty much assume it's not going to be as high as coming from a small farm. But the other thing is technically a raw egg white is not necessarily good for you. So egg yolk is okay, but it's the white that's not necessarily good for you.
Really?
Yeah, there's an ingredient in the white that is questionable of how healthy it is for you when it's raw. I wish I could answer that more completely.
But in general, your sense is better to have the egg cooked.
Yeah, I think so. I think particularly since most people are getting their eggs conventionally, yes, absolutely. And a soft boiled, a soft or medium boiled egg is sort of your ideal way of eating an egg, because you want that yolk to not be too hard. You want the yolk to be runny. That is the healthiest way to have an egg. Mm-hmm. Whereas the white, that's fine if it's cooked. So soft boiled, medium boiled are ideal. Poached, beautiful way to have an egg. And poaching is, if you want to do that, you can just poach the egg in a little water. If you add a little bit of white vinegar to the water, it will help to keep the egg contained. It will actually, the vinegar keeps the egg, the constitution of the egg whole, I guess, if you want to call it, instead of it bidding about. If you just throw the egg in, the whites will start to kind of just create little white bits everywhere and foam and whatnot. But the vinegar will help kind of keep the constitution.
I have one question for you further on the use of avocado. How much avocado is it good for me to eat, say on a, let's say use daily basis, and how much avocado is too much avocado?
That's kind of the question, isn't it? Is this whole good fat conversation everyone's having? Avocado is definitely on the good fat list. Mm-hmm. But that is people are not agreeing as to is how many good fats can you have in your day. Our daughter right now, she has probably about a whole avocado a day.
Really?
Yeah.
And your daughter's what, 2?
She is almost a year old.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's one of her favorite foods, and so we'll give it half of it, at breakfast and maybe half at lunch. And she seems very healthy to me. I mean, maybe I'm a little biased, but she does seem very healthy. I kind of am a big fan of you listen to your body. Mm-hmm. I love using the juice example, for example, right? So if you have a juice, let's say a glass even like this, that's probably, let's say if we even just go about 3/4 of a way up, that's possibly 6 to 8 oranges if it's orange juice. Possibly.
That's
Maybe.
A lot of oranges.
Yeah, it's a lot of oranges. Yeah. If I was eating a whole orange, I would never eat that many oranges in one day or one sitting even, right? But when it's juiced, we eat a lot. The same thing with avocados. I'm going to be hard-pressed to eat 3 avocados in a day. It's just because it's a real food.
That would be a lot of avocado, wouldn't it? That'd be really too much, right?
It is, I think. I mean, I think your body will tell you that. It's a lot. It's not just that it's a lot of fat. It's more of like you're satiated by even just one avocado.
Right.
And when you're eating real foods, and that's why I'm a big fan of real foods, when you're eating a smoothie like this, your body is going to tell you, I'm good, I'm satiated, and it will get you to that next hump or whatever that next meal you need, whether it's that 10 or 10:30 snack or maybe even all the way to lunch, depending on maybe you had 2 eggs instead of 1, and maybe it got you all the way to lunch. I don't know. It depends on, of course, your activity during your morning. But way, way, way better breakfast than coffee, which is sadly what most people are doing.
Right.
That is literally all they're eating is that coffee, and it's just killing their stomach lining, just killing it. So highly recommend this. Now, some people might oh, by the way, kids actually love this green smoothie. Our baby actually loves drinking this. So don't think just because it's green that your kid may not like it. It's actually really, really tasty.
Well, if your kid sees you and Margaret drinking it, the kid thinks, "Oh, this is food."
Totally.
I mean, what does the kid know, right?
Sia is the name of our child, our little girl, and she's amazing in that she will only eat food with flavor. Where did that come from? I don't know. Maybe having a father for a chef and a nutritionist for a mother.
Mm-hmm.
But literally, if we give her any kind of food that's just plain, she kind of looks at it, tries it, spits it out, throws it on the floor. Then I add some chimichurri or something to it. Add some flavor to it. She gobbles it up. So we're excited about that, actually. So let me show you the next smoothie, which is actually a berry-centric smoothie, not a James berry-centric, just a berry with an E. So I had to do that, right? I had to do that.
Bada bing. Thank you very much. That's right.
So this one, actually, you would use a banana. You can use frozen berries, and I usually freeze the banana. A great way to make a smoothie in the morning, if you are using bananas, is you peel the banana and then stick it in like a Ziploc bag, put it in the freezer. If you freeze the banana with the peel on, you're going to be hard pressed to peel off that peel. It makes it very, very difficult. So recommend you first peel the banana and then freeze it. Ideally, you don't want to have green bananas. They're going to not be, they're more chalky and it's not going to be as flavorful. So you don't have to wait till it's spotted and crazy ripe, but find that balance where it's no longer a green banana, but also not too far where it has the brown around it. Freeze it, and then you would throw in one or even half into the smoothie. You have, I have some frozen berries. Now I don't have a sink right here, so you're going to see some of the green smoothies still in there, but that's all right. This is just more for, demonstration purposes, but here I have some frozen berries. I'm just using blueberries. I usually keep my berries to about half a cup. That's one, if you want to talk about too much, that's where I start to get real sensitive, is fruit. A lot of people think, oh, well, it's natural. I can eat as much of it as I want. But using the juice scenario, if you're eating real whole fruits, you're still not going to eat that many in a day. And it is still sugar.
Right.
We have to remember, it doesn't matter what the source is, if it's high fructose corn or natural fruit, it's still all sugar. So I'm a big fan of, I eat fruit in the morning, and that's really it. And I usually try to limit it to about half a cup. Obviously, it varies on what you're eating. If you're eating a grapefruit, a whole grapefruit, that might be a little over half a cup. But just keep it to either one fruit or half a cup, whichever fits. So you have a frozen banana, which I did not bring, but you would put the frozen banana in. You put the frozen berries in, and then I add for that kind of extra little sweetness. You could add a little honey if you want, but I love using actual dates. So date is a whole fruit that's just been dried, and I add a little bit of that in there.
Are those dates organic?
Yeah.
What kind of dates are those?
These are the what is that?
Medjool.
Yeah, medjool. That's kind of
the big
real
ones.
That's the big one, yeah. Those are the more expensive ones and probably the sweeter ones. But you can really, if you go to the farmer's market, I've seen date stands and they have so many different dates and they all have different flavors. It's really beautiful, actually. There's some that taste like caramel. There's some that taste like honey. They're all different types, and I highly recommend.
We grow them here in California. We grow those dates.
Yeah, we do,
yes,
don't we? Yeah.
A lot of dates.
A lot of dates. I know. A lot of people think it's just an international food. It's not at all.
Yeah, no, we grow them here.
Yeah. There's even... do you know how dates are the wasp that, do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I do not.
Oh, gosh. They're I shouldn't have brought it up because I cannot remember the term right now. But if I remember, I'll bring it up. But it's a really fun how dates are actually, there's a certain wasp that's very specific to the date. And that's how they're...
Well, that's a pollinated?
Yeah, pollinated. Exactly. That's the word I was looking for, pollinated. So I have tried unpollinated dates, and they're very different. It's a very different taste. There's a stand in Santa Monica and in Mar Vista, a date stand, and they have unpollinated. It's neat to try the different ones, but it's fascinating. There's literally a wasp per style of date specific to that date that will pollinate. A very, very incredible little insect world. But so I put in some dates. Then I add a little bit of cinnamon because since we're doing fruit, We can add a little bit of spice to it, keeping it. Now I'm adding in the cookbook, we add about a fourth of a teaspoon of cinnamon. For the dates, we add about 2 pitted dates. Key is you got to make sure you remove those pits, because if you don't, you're going to hear it in the machine, and it's not fun. You know, particularly if you're grabbing it on the go, you don't want to have to then try to stick your hand in your business suit and pull out that date. That's not good. So then I'm going to add some flax oil. So this time, instead of the chia seeds, we're doing the flax oil, and that's also a source of omega-3. In the cookbook, I say 1 tablespoon, so I'm going to do about a capful. That's about a tablespoon. And this is a little thing about flax oil. If you're buying flax oil and it's not being refrigerated, I would stay clear of it, because flax oil is it's very volatile. If it's not in a dark container, sunlight can basically ruin it. It's coming from the seed, the linseed or the flax seed, whatever you want to call it. And once that seed is broken, and to get the oil from it, starts to oxidize. So you really want to make sure you're getting flax oil from a refrigerator source, because that's going to help slow down that oxidation. Then we're going to add a little vanilla extract, and that's purely just for the flavor. If you don't want to do vanilla extract, you don't have to, but it just adds a little bit of flavor. We add about a half a teaspoon there, and then once again we can do the water or the coconut water. I also add a little almond butter. What I'm trying to do with this fruit-based smoothie is add some good fat, so then that way you're not doing exactly what you talked about, where you're not drinking it and then needing more food right away. So the fat is what's going to slow down the sugar rush, right, from the fruit. So with the almond butter, it's about 2 tablespoons. And I'm just using, you can technically soak almonds and blend those. That will be a little bit bittier. But if you just add some almond butter, that works too. If you add too much almond butter, then it's going to affect the flavor. But maybe that's a flavor you like, so it's totally up to you. Okay, so there I have the cinnamon. I have, if I had brought it, we would have had 1 frozen banana. I have about 2 tablespoons of almond meal. I have a half a cup of blueberries frozen. You can use fresh as well, but I like the frozen, that way you don't need to use any ice. And then I have 2 pitted dates. I have about a fourth of a teaspoon of cinnamon. I have 1 tablespoon of flax oil. And then I have some coconut water, and I'm adding about half a cup. And then you can add bee pollen if you want. Are you familiar with bee pollen?
Yes.
Yeah, right? So bee pollen is interesting, particularly if you buy bee pollen from your area. There are some reports that it can help you with your allergies. But you only want to do a little bit at a time, because some people will have allergic reactions to it. So you want to be sensitive to that. I'm adding literally just a pinch of that. And that's it. And I'm going to blend it. And this is... I'm just going to add a little bit more water. But so this is, once again, this is a real food smoothie. There's no protein powders, nothing like that. What you're getting... There we go. But you're getting the good fat from the almonds, just like you were in the other smoothie. You're getting the good fat from the avocado. You're getting the omega-3s from the flax this time instead of the chia seeds. And there you have just a kind of a berry-based smoothie that you can once again add an egg to this, and you got a complete breakfast.
Well, James Berry, thank you very much for that lovely cooking demonstration.
It's really good.
It's very good, thank you. You're listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live television network. We're going to take a very short break, and then James Berry will be back for the next segment, so please stay tuned.
Hello, this is Angela DeJoseph. Join me Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Pacific for the Angela DeJoseph Show. Join me as we venture into health, wealth. We're going to give you news, interviews, and entertainment. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, Live 365, Radio Flag, TiVo Radio, and now live on Facebook. Or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Y'all ready for this? Yeah!
Hi, I'm Jerry Bell of the Daz Band in New Birth.
And I'm Brahima Arsalan.
Inviting you to join us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Time for Jerry Bell's R&B Soul Classics, baby.
Join us as we play some of the greatest hits of soul and R&B and listen in to interesting discussions with the legends of the music.
So don't you forget, join us on the Jerry Bell's R&B Soul Classics. You'll love it. Exclusively on latalklive.com.
You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio.
Or watch us and listen directly at latalklive.com, baby.
Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure.
This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk, baby. We're music.
Hi, this is Susie Pruden. And yes, you've seen me on Oprah, Good Morning America, and The Today Show. And I'm inviting you to join me every Monday from 3 to 4 for my new show, Mastermind Live. Join us as we introduce you to the new thought leaders of the world who will inspire you, support you, and guide you to your next level. So don't forget to tune into Mastermind Live exclusively on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream TV. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
And now, hosting this segment of Here's to Your Health, wellness expert, author of the Naked Foods Cookbook, Chef to the Stars, James Barry.
Hi, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be guest hosting on the Here's to Your Health Josh Lane show. So thank you so much, Josh. So we have today a very special guest, Dr. Mike Carragher. Dr. Carragher, we met, I think, about 2 years ago now, right?
I think that's right.
Yeah, wow, it's been a while. So Dr. Carragher is a medical director and president of the Body Well in West Hollywood, California, which was established in 2007. Wow. It's a good amount that it's been around. He's a board-certified family medicine. He's board-certified in family medicine with an advanced training and certification in age management, medicine, and hormonal optimization. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. He's received his medical degree in 1999 from Western University and of health sciences in Pomona. A little California boy right now, right? But you're not from California, right? Yeah. And he's also a graduate of the New York University. Dr. Carragher is also a board member of the 80 World Health, a nonprofit organization that provides sustainable medical care and health education to children and families in need. Dr. Mike Carragher, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks. So fun to be here with you, James.
So right off the bat, yeah, let's talk. There we go. So right off the bat, let's talk about what is hormonal optimization.
Yeah, sure. So the specialty in which I practice, as you know, is what we call, in the larger sense, age management. Age management medicine, and that includes hormonal optimization. The best way to talk about what age management is really to talk about what it's not. Because it's not about helping you to live to be 110 or 120 years old. If you do and you're healthy, great. But what it really is about is giving you the best quality of life, as the years go on, so that you are functioning at your optimum through your 60s, 70s, 80s, and on. So it's really about it is what we call proactive prevention. Okay, it's about keeping you physically, emotionally, spiritually as fit as possible as your life goes on. And so we comprehensively approach that at my clinic.
That's really great because we hear a lot with Western medicine, right? How people are always just waiting until they have the problem. But you're really talking about we want to get you in there to help you before you have a problem, right?
For sure, yeah. And that's actually one of the main reasons that I decided to start practicing in this field, is that as I went through medical school training and went through my residency, it seemed to me that medicine was so reactionary, and we hear so much about preventive medicine, but truly is preventive medicine being practiced in mainstream medicine? In my opinion, it was not, and so doing what we do really helps to serve that. I mean, I think that if we teach our patients how to eat correctly, right? We teach our patients how to exercise correctly, while they're in their 20s and 30s and 40s, or really at any time, and we optimize their hormone levels, we give them a decreased risk of chronic degenerative disease down the road, so.
And there's 4 pillars to your age management program, right? Can you talk about those?
Yeah, sure. So, so the 4 cornerstones, as I call it, of age management medicine, are nutrition, intelligent exercise, that is teaching people to exercise in a way that optimizes their hormone levels and helps them to keep body fat at the lowest percentage possible. There's mental agility and emotional well-being, which is a big component. If we are mentally and emotionally fit, then our health outcomes are better, as well as optimizing hormones, which is what I specialize in.
Let's talk a little bit about that because I know it's a little bit of not a little bit, I guess it is a controversial topic, correct? I mean,
hormones, for sure, yeah. I mean,
it's a topic that's coming up a lot, more and more. I hear it. It's kind of becoming a catchphrase. I think I hear more and more clients like, "Oh, my hormones are off, and that's why I can't lose this weight," or whatever. But they may not understand what that is or be scared of it because, so is it safe? Is it what can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. There is
controversy around it.
It's very controversial, hormones have kind of gotten a bad rap, in my opinion, in a lot of ways. I mean, when many of us think about hormones, think about male hormones, testosterone, right? We think about, muscles and sex drive, right? And we think about abuse in professional sports, right? Or in high school or college sports. And, or we think about these guys that we see at the gym who are, 3 times the size that any human being should reasonably be, and and they are at increased risk for adverse health outcomes as a result of that, right? So, and that is really about these men in this case. We'll speak about women a little bit separately, but about them taking hormone levels and putting them at 2, 3, 4 times super physiological levels, right? And I always say to my patients, if you have a headache and you take 2 Tylenol, your headache goes away. If you have a headache and you take 60 Tylenol, you need a liver transplant. I mean, literally, And it's the same thing with hormones, So what we do is we optimize hormones. We take hormones to the upper third of the normal range, the normal physiological range for a person, and the studies that have been done shown that men and women who operate, in that range for the hormone levels that we like high, have decreased risk of virtually every chronic degenerative disease. Their all-cause mortality goes down, their incidence of heart disease goes down, Alzheimer's disease goes down, osteoporosis goes down, not to mention the fact that they feel better, they look and feel better, their energy levels are better, their sleep is better, their sex lives are better. It's kind of a win-win in my opinion,
So how do you, in the earlier segment, I was talking about how I'm a big natural foodie, and I'm really into things that are natural and real food-based. How do you I remember when we talked earlier about this, you remember you used the story or the idea of the glasses to someone like myself. So how would you, if I came to you and I said, okay, well, I'm kind of trepidatious about this hormonal optimization and age management, how would you kind of ease my fears around it not being natural.
Yeah, sure. So, well, the example I was making to you is, when people say to me, I think that more hormone levels should just decline, I mean, if that's a normal part of aging, and my response to them frequently is, well, then why would you go out and get eyeglasses if your vision is declining, if that's just age-related vision decline, or why would you go to the dentist and have your teeth cleaned or get fillings done if that's just, decline, right? I mean, so we have these sort of these preconceived notions about things that we should just let age. I mean, and I think also a lot of that stems from the fear around hormones in general. But if we can put your hormones at a healthy level, and again, we are not talking about replacing hormone levels to above a physiological range. We're talking about optimizing them to the range where people function best and they have the best health outcomes. In my opinion, it's a win-win. And as well, the way that we address it at the Body Well is not just by giving people creams to slather on or hormones to inject. We have a comprehensive approach at our clinic where we assess people's nutritional status, right? We really look at what they're eating and how they're eating, because we look at their exercise, and we look at their stressors in their lives, because all of these affect their hormone levels, right? I mean, the way, this, the way that a person eat profoundly affects their metabolism and their hormone levels. There is a very specific way of exercising or not exercising that will have an effect on your hormone levels. And so by addressing all of these, we increase people's hormone levels and help optimize them, and then use a minimum effective dose of replacement if needed.
Yeah, I recently learned that simply not getting a good night's sleep will actually lower testosterone.
Yeah, it certainly does. I mean, most of our hormonal production happens, in the hours, 10 to 2 a.m. while we're sleeping, right? And so if people are not getting adequate sleep at night, whether it's that they have insomnia or they're taking sleep medications, or multiple factors, that play into that, then their hormone levels will be affected, And so we help them to address all of these issues.
So other than the exercise and the what you eat, what are some other reasons why, what's going on in our world that we would need hormonal support?
Yeah, well, I mean, primarily there is age-related hormonal decline. I mean, and if we really think about it, our hormones, starting truthfully in our early to mid-20s, hormones like melatonin, that helps us to get a good night's sleep, start declining in production, and for men starting in our late 20s, early 30s, testosterone production just starts going down year after year after year, and typically what happens as we age is the hormones we like nice and low, like insulin and cortisol, those start creeping up, and the ones we like nice and high, growth hormone, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, those start declining, and as that happens, we start seeing and feeling the effects of aging. This is complexed by people not eating the right way or exercising the right way, which can accelerate or exacerbate that.
Do you have kind of a personal history with age management? Like what got you into specifically age management focus?
Yeah, I do. It's an interesting story. So I was going through my my residency training, and I was absolutely exhausted, and I thought, well, of course I'm exhausted. I'm a medical resident, right? And I'm, working 36-hour shifts and, having 5 hours of sleep and then doing it all over again. And so I thought, well, that's just normal, right? And so then, but I was really exhausted. And then my residency ended, I started working more normal clinic hours, and 4 or 6 months went by, and I still just thought, oh, gosh, I have never felt this tired before in my life, And so someone suggested to me that I have a hormonal panel done, and I did, and I was astounded at how low, both my testosterone level was, and actually my growth hormone level as well, and so I thought, and I got on replacement, and it literally turned my life around. I mean, it really did. I thought to myself, wow, this is exactly the way that I thought I was supposed to feel, I mean, I thought, yeah, the guy gave me my life back. And so from there, it got me really interested. And so that's why I started pursuing a specialty in this field.
What's the average time? Like, so for your own experience, you started treatment.
Yeah.
How quickly did you feel the effects?
Right away. I mean,
really?
Yeah. I mean, literally, within a week of being on hormone replacement, I was feeling better.
And is it something, so someone comes to the Body Well, or even yourself, is it something you have to stay on forever, or how does that work?
Yeah. So typically, depending upon what the issue is, it really begins. So people will come in for what we call their evaluation, and we look at their hormone levels, we look at what they're eating, we look at the way they're exercising, all of that, and we do blood testing, to look at where their levels are, and then depending upon which hormones need replacing, or optimizing, we address that. Some people, they'll come in, their growth hormone level will be really low. We teach them how to eat and exercise, and their levels are improved within 3 months, and they don't need growth hormone replacement. And some people, if we need to put them on testosterone, typically if it's age-related decline, then they'll be on that for life. Yes.
I like that. I like that you actually are really personalizing it to the person instead of it kind of a gross kind of generalization of what they need.
It's not a one-size-fits-all by any means. Yeah.
Yeah. So you and I met through Margaret, actually, and I love the story of how what you were doing prior to meeting Margaret versus what you started doing afterwards. Can you talk a little bit about that kind of the food piece to age management?
Yeah, sure. And that's why I love that collaboration so much, because Margaret's the one who really, got me to put fat back in my diet,
Right.
I mean, I was eating a good diet, I mean, I was relatively low on the glycemic index, and I had refined carbohydrates out of my diet and all that, but I was not having good fats in my diet, and so, and reintroducing, good, healthy, quality fats into my diet, good quality animal fats back into my diet, really took my energy levels to a more stable place, and that collaboration's been really valuable.
Did you see a lot of changes in clients, Body Well clients, that were eating kind of that lower fat before she came versus then increasing the good fats in
yeah,
their diet?
for sure, and I mean just switching a nutritional paradigm to the eat naked paradigm and Margaret's paradigm, supported by your food as well,
Right.
in the cookbook. We watch people in a very short period of time. If they do the sugar detox, they drop, weight quickly doing that. It's interesting. I was just reading a study too that slow sustained weight loss versus rapid weight loss, that both of them
It was comparing the two?
Yeah, it was comparing the two, and there's no additive value of slow weight loss versus rapid weight loss, that the people keep the weight off at the same rate, which I thought was kind of
really
interesting, because we've heard the opposite of that for a while now.
So tell me a little bit about, you mentioned intelligent exercise. What is that?
Yeah, so intelligent exercise is what we do is it's teaching people a way of exercising that recruits their hormones to maintain lean body mass and to burn fat at a faster rate. Most of us will go to the gym and go do 45 minutes to an hour on the treadmill 6 days a week, levels on 4, and nobody's losing weight after the first 4 or 6 weeks. I mean, if you take a person who's not exercising, put them on a treadmill, they're going to lose weight for a few weeks, but then after that, most of them plateau. And so, and what we do is we do very specific testing. It's called VO2 max testing, and what it does is it's the most accurate way of measuring a person's aerobic and anaerobic thresholds. That is the heart rate at which your body switches from aerobic to anaerobic metabolism, and once you cross an anaerobic threshold, you are recruiting your hormones to burn fat at 9 times a faster rate than traditional just cardiovascular aerobic exercise. And so we set people up, and so we make their exercise programs extremely efficient. We put them on a 20-minute exercise program that they do every other day, and so I think the 2 biggest mistakes that people make in exercising is, number one, they mistake quantity for quality of exercise, right? They think more is better, not necessarily true. And second, as we get older, most of us do more aerobic exercise and less anaerobic exercise. You watch people move from the weights to the cardiovascular equipment, and
can you share the difference for the people that may not know what the difference are between the two?
Yeah, well, in short, aerobic exercise by definition means that you're using oxygen to create the gasoline that your cells need to go. Anaerobic means you're not using oxygen. You're actually using glycogen, which is storage form of sugar in your liver, to to make the gasoline, so to speak. So, but teaching people this way of exercising, it accelerates fat loss. It's more efficient and helps them to maintain lean body mass, which we're fighting against as we get older.
Right.
There's a nice demonstration of that on our website on thebodywellusa.com.
Okay, so say that again. So how can people learn more about what you do?
Yeah, so our website is thebodywellusa.com. We're located in West Hollywood, California. People can also email me directly at Dr. Mike, DRMIKE, at thebodywellusa.com. I get all my emails. I respond to them. So that's
great. And you're
way.
not just you're kind of you have a handful of things that people can go to for there. It's not just age management that you have the nutritional piece there. You have exercise, but you kind of, the Body Well represents more than just the things we're talking about. Can you talk a little bit, because I mentioned it earlier, but you actually volunteer your time, right? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So the Body Well, the Body Well is best defined as a health collective. It's a bunch of like-minded practitioners who really do focus on prevention, okay? And we have a naturopathic doctor there. We've got the nutritionist there. We have an acupuncturist and Chinese medicine doctor there. We have a physical therapy department that really works on functional physical therapy and postural work. We have massage therapists. We have a Pilates studio. It's really a bunch of people. And, my vision in opening the Body Well was to have people be as physically and emotionally fit as they can be, so that they can go out and do good works in the world. That was sort of our group philosophy. So our tagline of the Body Well is "Be well, do well." So it's like going out and doing well, and so I serve on the board of 80 World Health, which is a fantastic organization that was started up by a very good friend of mine, Dr. Natalie Nevins, and what we do is we are providing sustainable medical care, and we're building medical clinics in remote regions that have very little access to care. So literally we're going to the most remote places, and the current project I've been working on is in the Tibetan Himalayas, and it's been about 5 years in running, and we're providing kids up there with vaccinations and with primary care and physicals. They're malnourished and have, the place that we're building this clinic currently, it's an entire day's drive to the closest healthcare facility, and so we're really serving a need that is valuable. And I encourage any of my patients to go out and be of service in some way, because I really feel like there's nothing that feeds the soul more than doing that.
That's obviously key to health. Yeah, that's really great. Well, can you share again? So how can people learn more about the Body Well and what you do?
Sure, they can go to our website, which is thebodywellusa.com. Or they can email me directly at DRMIKE, that's Dr. Mike, at thebodywellusa.com. You can Google us. We're in the Body Well in West Hollywood, California.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you sharing.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks, James.
Thank you, everybody. And I'm James Berry, and you are listening to Here's to Your Health.
Hello, I'm Joel Ramirez.
And I'm Lolita Robinson-Coppage, and welcome to Joy in My House
on LATalkLive.com. Inspirational radio
with a touch of recovery.
A reality show where nothing is left unsaid.
And no one is insignificant who says it.
Exclusively on LATalkLive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream TV.
Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Starla Quarles, and I'm inviting you to join us every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. for a new show right here on LA Talk Live, The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People. Join us as we discuss the topics that are relevant to today's generational leaders. So don't forget to tune in to The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People, every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. right here on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio, or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Dr. Levi, your fitness doctor, making a personal house call, inviting you to join me Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific for my all-new show, The Dr. Levi Show. Join us as we discuss fitness, health, and well-being, including emotional and spiritual health. So don't forget to tune in to The Dr. Levi Show every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, exclusively on latalklive.com and the Talk Live Broadcast Network. You can also catch us on iTunes, Radio R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv, or catch us on the Live 365 network, and now on Radio Flag and Stitcher Radio. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Journey Sisters is an organization that embodies and captivates women from all walks of life. Our membership includes 44 women that are constantly growing in the areas of personal development and community involvement. Monthly, we offer free leadership classes at McKay's Restaurant. Journey aims to inform women in the areas of heart disease and HIV and AIDS. Experience the journey now by logging into www.journeymosaicinc.com. Toll free 888-906-5519. Journey with no excuses.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live television network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. And my guest is Leslie Starus of Fresh and Ready Foods. Leslie has been a natural foods veteran for a long time and has a new company. Leslie, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so what exactly is your background?
Well, as I was saying, Fresh and Ready Foods, they took over my company, which was originally Foodology. I ran my company as first Sprout Time, which I started in my yard in Venice, California, growing sprouts in 1980, and developed into a larger situation where we were in an agricultural space in Canoga Park, 30,000 square feet of greenhouse. And then as an urban farmer, I became very tired of farming and segued into the food manufacturing business, which was called Foodology. Foodology did, for 15 years, we were producing raw foods as well as processed foods all over the country, including Trader Joe's and Costco and so forth. And then the opportunity to join Fresh and Ready came to me, and it was very good because it enabled me. Fresh and Ready is a much bigger company than Foodology was, and it enabled me to use the resources that they had to really build the brand of Foodology nationally. Mm-hmm. And that is what Fresh and Ready wants to do. So that's why we've introduced these products that are already in distribution in a national way, and we're really excited about it.
So you're really a veteran, and because in 1980, people pretty much kind of ignored your ideas, right?
Oh, yes. They thought I was definitely one of the...
From Mars.
A flower child.
That's right, a flower child. That's quite right. Yes, that's right.
Which I was.
That's right.
And still am.
And you still are. That's quite right. And so now you're doing products like, what, guacamole?
Well, what we did is, again, when you start to do a national line of health food, natural products, it's very good to focus. So what we did is we took the best and the largest seller in foodology, which was the edamame that you see here, the organic edamame pods and the shelled edamame, which are distributed nationally in many of the supermarkets in Los Angeles, like Ralph's, Stater Brothers, Sprouts, and many others all over and in Ohio, we're in Spartan and other places that we don't even know about because we're distributed through many distributors.
And now for my listeners who are tuning in today, what is edamame, by the way?
Well, that's a good question because that then, of course, is what everyone asks when they see the guacamole. But edamame is a variation of a soybean seed, but it's an immature growth. It's not the full-grown soybean, and they're primarily grown in Asia, Japan, China, Thailand, Vietnam. There is some growth now in the U.S., and that's been experimental. It hasn't quite made the quality of the Asians because they've done it for centuries. The thing that attracted me to it originally was that it's non-GMO soy. As we all know, 98% of the soy grown in the United States is GMO. So all the varieties of soy that you're eating in alternative vegetarian foods that have a soy protein, a vegetable protein, anything that says that means soy protein. And in most cases, it is GMO soy. So what attracted me was the fact that, again, we're dealing with countries that weren't GMO. So we knew we were getting pure GMO foods because it wasn't spreading anywhere. It was at least not at this stage. And that attracted me. And the fact that edamame is a perfect food. It is the most complete protein of any plant food.
Really?
Yes. It's got more protein in a half a cup of edamame. You get 11 grams of protein. And all of the myths, there are a lot of myths around soy because it's a very big subject. It's a big commodity. So what we try to do is say that the edamame bean, because it is non-gluten, it's vegan, it's non-GMO, it's grown really where it began and the way it was done centuries ago, is a purer form of soy than you're going to get if you're going to eat the soy that you're going to find in all your I want to say not all, but the most of your even natural alternatives. So that's what excited me about edamame. Plus, it seemed to be fun. When I did Sprouts originally, people just loved and were attracted to me and my stand when we did the farmer's market because they were beautiful, because they were funny, because we could make fun of it, but at the same time, they could eat it. So when edamame became popular in all the Japanese, in all the sushi bars, everybody wanted edamame. Kids love edamame. It's in the school program. They eat shelled edamame as part of their vegetable on their plate, and they eat the pods as a side dish snack between meals. And a lot of parents send edamame in bags with their kids because kids just like popping them in their mouth and eating them. My warning is for those of you out there that do not know this, you do not eat this shell. I've been called from people telling me, I don't know, I put this shell in my mouth and I keep chewing and it doesn't go anywhere. Well, you don't. You really just put it between your teeth, pop out the beans, and there you go. And the good thing for those dieters is that you end up eating less. All this work of popping beans into your mouth takes time, so you end up eating less. And the calorie content in soy is so significantly lower than any other kind of food that you can, I think it's 120 calories in a cup of these beans. So what we did is, given that we were already doing a line of edamame, we tried to get a line that would be a neighbor to our other line. And the CEO and founder, Chuck Lehman of Fresh and Ready Foods, actually came up with the guacamole concept with his grandchildren, Julia and Reese. And he then gave it to me and the team that's at Fresh and Ready, the R&D team, the production team. We just took off on it and turned it into something that we can sell now all over the country. And to do that, for a natural food product that still maintains all the qualities that I mentioned, vegan, non-GMO, non-dairy, non-gluten is definitely a difficult task. You can do things on a local level with lots of lots of raw food and lots of prepared foods, but to do it on a national level takes a sophisticated R&D process, which we did. The guacamole over here, which I already mixed up, took out of its container and put the little chips in it, is ready to eat, ready to go. And the thing that I love about this product, it's so versatile. It doesn't turn brown. It lasts 30 to 35 days. 2 tablespoons has 3 grams of protein. There's no fat. The fiber is relatively high for a spread, and it has the omega-3s, which are very high. So it's got everything you need. This has no avocado in it. It is pure edamame with jalapenos and different flavorings that we've used to spice it up.
Leslie, so what are the ingredients? Tell my listeners the ingredients.
of the guacamole?
Yes.
Okay. Well, besides edamame, is that what you're saying?
Yes. Besides the edamame, yes.
Okay. Well, besides the edamame, and I'm actually checking it myself,
yes.
You're going to get herbs like cumin and cilantro, onion, garlic. You're going to get tomatoes, and you're going to get jalapenos. Those are the main ingredients.
And other than that, it's just the soybean, just the
other
edamame.
than it really is a cooked soybean.
So no avocado in that at all.
No avocado, nothing to take away from the protein. I think that the thing that we've been able to do is being able to make it freezable, and when it defrosts, it's still creamy. And that's been, I think, the great contribution that we're making to the whole natural food industry across the country, because usually you can't get this kind of a product and freeze it, defrost it, and then it doesn't taste good. This product stays creamy. You can buy it, use half of it, stick it back in the freezer, thaw it again. You can heat it up. A friend of mine uses it on a quesadilla. She spreads it on a quesadilla, adds a piece of cheese, adds a piece of turkey, sticks it in her toaster oven, and it's a fantastic high protein food. Mm-hmm. So I did an experiment. I used it on pasta because I did a very bland pasta and I wanted a kick. And so I added 2 tablespoons of the guacamole to it, and I had this great pasta dish that had kind of a kick, and it was, had a creamy feeling to it. It's just an amazing product. I'm really proud of it, and I know that the team at Fresh and Ready are also very proud of it. That's why they've really, Fresh and Ready is primarily a food service company, and they've really given it all to make this happen because they believe in it too. And we're really very happy it's one of those things where, given I was a farmer, right? I was an urban farmer. So I understand what it's like to know where your food comes from. And I think that in this line, that's what you're getting. You're getting this idea that you know where your food comes from and what it can do for you. And that is a very empowering thing. And I think the whole country now, we're seeing that trend anyway. That's what people want. They want to know, where is this coming from? What is it? Is it GMO? Is it non-gluten? Is it protein?
No, actually, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Now, Leslie, while you're doing your presentation, you mentioned in passing that there's some controversy about soy.
Yes.
Could you tell me, what is the controversy in your opinion?
Well, again, I'm speaking neutrally because I'm not a scientist or anything, but I've read all the material and I've been involved in this for years and years. When soy first came out, like soy hot dogs, soy chickens, soy so forth, it took over the Expo West, which is, of course, the biggest natural food show in the country. Uh-huh. Everybody had soy hot dogs, soy this, soy that, the whole thing. And then a few years later, when all the publicity come out, or the scientific reports were coming out, they were like, oh no, I don't know about this, because they talk about estrogen and they talk about breast cancer and they talk about affecting thyroid or affecting menopause or whatever it is. And so it turned the
okay, so my question for you is that information correct or incorrect?
Well, on the American Cancer Society's website, which is what I checked, the myths and the facts about estrogen are not true.
Right, in other words, there is no estrogen in soy.
No.
Correct.
They are saying
so
it's a
no
different estrogen in soy. I can tell you exactly what it is.
Right.
It says, the myth, Soy contains the hormone estrogen. The isoflavones in soy are also known as...
Wait, so excuse me, that's the myth. The myth is that soy has estrogen.
Not exactly. It contains a kind of estrogen. It says it's known as phytoestrogens or plant estrogens. However, these natural plant compounds are not at all the same as the hormone estrogen found in the human body.
Right. Right. Only you and I, as mammals, have testosterone and estrogen. So there is no estrogen in soy.
Exactly.
And the word phytoestrogen is a term of convenience.
Yes.
Right. So then why do people slam soy?
Well, first of all, soy is huge. It's a commodity. It's being sold all over the world because of its high protein. The fact that it is high protein, it can feed lots of people in underdeveloped countries, etc. So I think that, like wheat is being slammed too because of the non-gluten side of the wheat. So I think that these key corn, that's another one that gets a lot of bad publicity. I think that they're taking this huge overview of soy, corn, wheat, and putting out all this publicity. And the thing is that public perception is everything. But as you know, every time I read something, it says something else. I mean, I thought also that soy was good for women that had breast cancer or for menopause. And then it wasn't good. And then it was good. And then it wasn't good. So again, I went to the American Cancer Society, who's now saying that soy may offer protective benefits for breast cancer patients and survivors. Do I know that to be true? Have I done the test? No. I just know that there are 2 stories that are going out there.
Especially miso, especially fermented soybean paste, is considered protective against breast cancer, and is used now for breast cancer patients.
Exactly.
So we see that soy has benefit, but you and I are not promoting the use of hydrogenated soybean oil or TVP, right?
I am not.
Right.
And I think that that's where where it gets, you have to be careful. I promote non-GMO soy.
Right.
That's me. I'm not speaking for Fresh and Ready Foods. I'm speaking for myself.
By the way, are Fresh and Ready non-GMO?
There are other products in food service.
No, these that you're showing us today, are these non-GMO?
Every product that I'm showing you are non-GMO.
Okay, great.
Because all edamame is non-GMO up to this point.
Oh, really?
Now, well, you understand that, let's say that they're growing it in the United States, in the Midwest, where they are primarily GMO.
Right.
If the air can travel, you've heard this before, if there's a soybean field, farm, some close enough that it can travel through the air to the non-GMO edamame field, it can contaminate the non-GMO.
Right. Right.
And that is the big issue right now. That's what everybody is talking about.
Oh, I see.
That's why Europe has stopped all GMO products.
Right. Good for them.
So that is, it's, as I've been doing this, I've gotten more and more information myself. And I tend to be very skeptical of the first newscast I hear on any of these things. So I've tried to research both sides because I do work with food scientists, and food scientists have a different perspective. They are not so anti-GMO. So I'm just saying that there's 2 sides.
Boo, Andrea. What can I say?
There's
really?
a lot of sides to this story,
Right.
but the consumer is empowered by getting informed and making a decision that works for them or with their doctor as it relates to if it's an illness. But I just think that, that this is a great... I'm a grab and go person. I carry my food bag with me in my car so that I don't stop at a 7-Eleven when I'm starving. And these are the kind of foods you can do that with. Many years ago, I did that with hummus before it became the big thing. Hummus is like taking over the market now. So, but edamame has higher protein than garbanzos. So it is actually more of a complete food than hummus. It's more filling, more satisfying, and that's why I'm excited about it.
Well, thank you, Leslie.
You're welcome.
And Leslie, where can we buy these foodology products or Fresh and Ready products?
Well, as I said, in most supermarkets you'll find the edamame in the produce section. Now, our edamame, unlike any other edamame that's on the market that you see in your sushi area, Ours has a 25-day shelf life because we do modified atmosphere packaging. It's a state-of-the-art packaging that allows both the beans, as you see over here, and the pods to stay fresh. One of the reasons that this package is black, it protects the chlorophyll so that, because when it gets subject to light, it fades. The same thing with the guacamole. This protects the color, which is so beautiful this way. And the guacamole is just being launched, which is kind of why I'm excited to be here. We're up in Northern California, Whole Foods. We're starting to demo there, so anyone in Northern California, it's in every store. We're doing, right now, we're doing Gelson's in the LA area. We're doing all the Gelson's. It's available there, and we just did demos there, and they all sold out. So, yeah, when I did the Expo West this last March, I gave out 2,000 samples in 2 days.
Wow.
And we were voted by one of the companies that do the marketing companies, one of the 5 most interesting products that they had. And we have a foodology page on Facebook. On the foodology page, it focuses mostly on the guacamole. It talks about edamame, but it tells you where the demos are, where you can get it. Because the stores are just happening one at a time, obviously. We'll be in Bristol Farms, we'll be in Lassen's, and I'm sure in a very short time we'll be everywhere, but it does take time to make sure it's done right.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
So.
Well, Leslie Starus, thank you very much for
You're
being guest on
welcome.
Here's to Your Health. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
This is Josh Lane with Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live television network. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back after these important messages.
Walk, run, climb, play. Solgar number 7 can help. Feel the difference for yourself. Solgar number 7 actually shows improvement in joint comfort within 7 days. Now you can start to get back on track fast and pursue the activities you love. Solgar number 7 is a breakthrough in joint care with no glucosamine and no chondroitin. The advanced bioactives in Solgar number 7 help to increase flexibility, mobility, range of motion, and actually shows improvement within just 7 days. 1 capsule, once a day, is all you need. When stiff joints occasionally say no, Solgar number 7 says yes. Visit Solgar.com and learn more about Solgar number 7 today. That's www.solgar.com, www.solgar.com. Solgar number 7, official sponsors of Here's to Your Health with Josh Lane and LA Talk Live.
Hi, this is Susie Pruden. And yes, you've seen me on Oprah, Good Morning America, and The Today Show. And I'm inviting you to join me every Monday from 3 to 4 for my new show, Mastermind Live. Join us as we introduce you to the new thought leaders of the world who will inspire you, support you, and guide you to your next level. So don't forget to tune into Mastermind Live exclusively on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream TV. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Dr. Levi, your fitness doctor, making a personal house call, inviting you to join me Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific for my all-new show, The Dr. Levi Show. Join us as we discuss fitness, health, and well-being, including emotional and spiritual health. So don't forget to tune in to the Dr. Levi Show every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, exclusively on latalklive.com and the Talk Live Broadcast Network. You can also catch us on iTunes, Radio R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv, or catch us on the Live 365 network, and now on Radio Flag and Stitcher Radio. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
And now, co-host of Here's to Your Health, registered pharmacist, educator for boron homeopathic medicines, Raphaele Cohen-Bacry.
Good afternoon. This is Raphaele on Here's to Your Health. And today my guest is a good friend of mine, Dr. Maniktala, who's a psychiatrist, a medical doctor in Sherman Oaks, board certified in psychiatry. Dr. Maniktala, would you like to just introduce yourself and give us a little bit of your background?
Sure. As you already said, I practice psychiatry in Sherman Oaks. I practice both adult as well as child and adolescent psychiatry. I'm board certified in both. And I've been in practice now for about 26 years. So I've been doing it a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And for the past few years, I've also been integrating homeopathy.
And that's how we met,
yes,
actually.
That's right. When I took the course, got trained in homeopathy by the CEDH.
Was it totally new to you, or you had an idea of what homeopathy was?
No, I grew up in India. I actually grew up being treated with homeopathy quite a bit as a child and a youngster, and benefited from it, and was always curious to learn more about it. And when this opportunity came up, I just jumped at it, and it's been very, very gratifying to be able to incorporate it into my practice.
And I wanted to ask you something that has been puzzling me for a little while. I do meet a lot of physicians who are from India originally, and they pretty much all have the same story, that they were very familiar, they saw great success in India. But I wanted to ask you, how did you feel when you went to medical school here in the United States? And I don't think they ever mentioned homeopathy. Was it a surprise to you, or was it?
Well, actually, I went to medical school in India, did my my training in psychiatry over here, but even in India, homeopathy was never mentioned at all.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so it wasn't just here.
Okay.
It was even in India. It is a totally separate field. So when you train in Western medicine, that's not something that's taught.
So it's two different directions. Either you treat patients with homeopathy, or you go and get a medical training.
Exactly, and that's what is so exciting now, after having learned homeopathy, to be able to use it in combination when appropriate. It really is exciting to have basically another tool in my toolbox.
And actually, that's also what was very interesting when we met, because I wasn't really aware of what homeopathy could do in the psychiatry field. I was guessing a little bit for nervousness and maybe sleep, but I had no idea there are a lot of things you can treat, or maybe you can just add homeopathy to the what we call the conventional medicine. That's how you use it, right? It's not for everybody, or
absolutely. I'm very, very selective about who I use it with, and it is also not something I use exclusively.
Of course.
But I think one thing important for us to recognize is that human beings are, whole organisms, and you really cannot split off the brain from the rest of the body. And in fact, we know more and more that there's a strong mind-body connection. And there are things that might be based on an emotional emotional basis
Mhm.
that manifest physically.
Yes.
And there are a lot of symptoms, for instance, even in skin disorders, we see that there are a lot of skin disorders that have a basis in emotional upset. And there is such an overlap. You really cannot split off parts of a person. So I think it's really good to be able to view the human being as a whole, the human
Yes.
body as a whole, and not split off parts of it.
And that's also, I guess, the reason why when you went to that training program,
Yes.
you didn't only study homeopathy and psychiatry, obviously.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Some people get confused. They think, some physicians, can I just follow the dermatology seminar? But it's not how it works. You need to comprehend
Learn.
the whole
Exactly.
human being.
Right. Right.
And before you went into homeopathy, were you already interested in other integrative,
Yes, actually, several years ago, about 12 years ago, I took a course in acupuncture.
Mhm.
So I have also been using that in cases that are appropriate for the acupuncture. So I do tend to have more of a holistic approach in my treatment.
And would you say that there are conditions where you already know if you have a patient that presents, you'll tell me, but depression, do you already know in your mind that that's going to be maybe a good candidate for homeopathy, or it's more depending on the patient, not necessarily
It's
the
absolutely
condition?
depending on the patient. There are no patients who walk in the door with, flag on their head that this is what I need. You have to do a very careful assessment.
Yes.
And it also depends on what the patient is looking for and what they want. For instance, I treat a lot of children in psychiatry. I do a lot of work with children and families, and more I find there are parents who come in wanting
great.
something other than standard Western medications, because they're worried about possible side effects and they want to just try a different approach and so on. So it's good to be able to discuss various
Yes.
options with parents, and having familiarity with different approaches. I can give them an educated, considered recommendation,
Yes.
and then
They can
we
choose
decide together what would be the best approach.
And sometimes if you don't get results with one approach, I guess you can switch or modify.
Or combine.
Yes.
That's what's so nice about it, is to be able to combine. And for instance,
Mhm.
there are some patients I see with attention deficit disorder.
Mhm.
And there are it's very rare to get attention deficit disorder by itself. There's often
Okay.
an overlap of other syndromes.
Mhm.
They can be very anxious, or they can have OCD, or they can be tic disorder.
But the reason why they come and see you, it's for their attention disorder,
or
usually.
usually that, and then when you do a careful assessment, you find that there are other things too. And the dilemma we run into often is with traditional medications.
Mhm.
Sometimes one medicine that you use for one disorder can make the other one worse.
Yeah.
And so, you often have to treat one before you get to the other, do a combination of medications. And, as a psychiatrist, I often see the most challenging cases,
Of course.
because the simpler ones often get treated by the pediatricians.
Mhm.
If there's plain and simple ADHD, they may not even come to me.
Would you mind explaining a little bit what attention disorder is for people who don't know?
Okay. Attention deficit disorder, I think, again, a lot of people these days
Yes.
hear that term, but
Yes.
may or may not know exactly what
Mhm.
it means, is basically difficulty with being able to sustain attention,
Okay.
not being able to organize yourself very well, not being able to transition easily from one thing to another. It's a neuropsychiatric
Okay.
disorder.
Really?
Yes.
But at one point, do you have to treat it? Because I know a lot of people who are like that, and you don't think
It becomes a disorder
Yes.
only when it interferes in your life.
Okay.
A lot of people may have mild kind of
Mhm.
symptoms, but they've learned how to manage them.
Okay.
Especially some adults who may have had these symptoms all their life, have learned behaviorally how to manage them and don't necessarily need to be treated with medication. But if these symptoms are interfering with your work life or your school functioning or your social life, and in children there can be problems with peers as a result of children being too impulsive, not being able to read social cues and respect boundaries and so on, then there can be big problems that only get bigger as they get older, and it's better to nip it in the bud.
And is it the same thing? So we call it ADD, right?
Yes.
What's the difference with ADHD?
It's really the same.
It's the same thing.
Thing. The broad umbrella diagnosis is ADHD.
Okay.
There are different subtypes. There's attention deficit with hyperactivity. There's attention deficit that's primarily inattentive type, and then there's a combined type where you see features of both.
So, but you also see it in adults.
You see it in adults as well. Yes.
And do you have, because you've been in practice for a long time, do you think this is a phenomenon that's growing or that is more diagnosed, or?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. It's hard to know, really. It's hard to know because, yes, we are better equipped to diagnose these things. Parents are more knowledgeable about the possibility of the disorder, so they're more apt to bring children in to be evaluated. And then, there could be environmental factors that are causing children to have it more frequently. We're not really sure.
Maybe even the diet, or
we don't really know.
So I'm sorry because I interrupted you, so that's a good. You can treat some cases with homeopathy, you would say, or at least add it to.
As I said earlier, I think having another tool in the toolbox is very, very helpful, and often being able to combine the two can be really beneficial. The traditional Western medications for treatment of ADD are stimulant medications like Ritalin or Adderall.
Which is a little bit, for someone who doesn't know, it seems a little bit weird to give stimulant to someone who's active, right?
No, but there's a chemical basis to it, and it works. They work really very dramatically and very well in appropriate cases, but there can be side effects. The most common being insomnia. The medications can often not clear out of the body early enough to let the child sleep, fall asleep. And so there are homeopathic medications that can be so beneficial when they are combined appropriately with these medicines. And the best thing is there are no side effects, and they can just, very gently get the child to sleep. And there's no problem with habit formation as there is with regular sedatives, no problem with dependency, no problem with side effects. So the worst that can happen is they don't work. If they don't work, then you move on to something else.
Absolutely, and I think that children are very willing to take their homeopathic medicine.
Because they're so easy to take. Even children who don't know how to swallow pills, these are little pellets that taste like sugar that you dissolve in your mouth. And so there's absolutely no resistance from the children. And, in parents who are trying to parent children with ADD, that is a big plus, because there's always so much opposition about everything and resistance. And if nighttime can go easier, it's a big plus for the whole family, not just for the child.
Yeah, the siblings.
And then if the child gets a good night's sleep, the next day goes much better. So it's very, very helpful.
I'm just very interested in that topic of ADD. Is it something that if you find it in one kid, is it likely that the siblings are going to have it, or it's not?
There is definitely a genetic component to it, so it tends to run in families. There is often a positive family history. If you take a history carefully, you will find it, but it isn't necessary for every sibling to have it.
That's good. Yeah. And can you grow out of it?
You can. There are some children who don't have symptoms as they get older, and then there are others who continue to have symptoms all the way into adulthood. There are some cases that are milder in nature, and with the right kind of help early on, they can be taught behaviorally how to also manage the symptoms, and they may not need medication as they get older. Then as adults, there are some people who continue to have milder symptoms, but depending on the career of their choice, it may not interfere in their day-to-day life, and then they don't need treatment.
Maybe someone who's more into the arts or will be less bothered than an accountant or something.
Exactly.
You just have to choose the right career.
Absolutely, you're right.
And tell me about, because I know it seems to be a difficult thing to treat well, about depression. Is that also something you can address with different approaches or?
Yes. Depression, when people think of depression, sometimes they just think of being a little sad and blue. But depression is a very serious disorder, serious medical disorder that can be very, very disabling. And we are very fortunate right now to have some excellent treatments available for depression, in Western, traditional Western medicine that are truly life-saving. And when I get cases of depression to treat, they're usually very severe because I'm a psychiatrist and I tend to see the more severe cases. So I would never, in a severe case of depression, start with homeopathy first. I would go with a treatment that's, really indicated for depression and try and get them better. But then along the way, if there are things to help them with, again, for instance, with sleep, we can add something that would be very helpful. Or they can have other symptoms, for instance, with the gastrointestinal tract, with depression and irritable bowel. Often there are things that go hand in hand, or pain disorders are very common in people with depression. There are things that if the depression is being treated appropriately with the right kind of medication, these other symptoms and disorders can be helped along very effectively with homeopathic remedies, which don't cause the kind of side effects that other medicines
or
might
interact with their
or interactions with their medications.
Well, it makes sense because I know, I attend a lot of conferences about homeopathy, and there's always something we keep saying it that to work, for those medicines to be able to work, the patient has to be able to react because the medicines are helping the patient to react.
Exactly.
But if you're so depressed and so down, I totally understand that you have to address the depression first, especially when it's a very severe case, and then get the person
and then speaking of interactions, that's a very important issue too. There are a lot of people with depression who also tend to have migraines. And talking about severe pain disorders, migraines are very common. And the common medical treatment for migraines is the triptan drugs like Imitrex. And they tend to interact with the SSRIs like Prozac and so on. And you really have to be extremely careful and very watchful. If you tend to use both together, you have to worry about the possible interactions. But there are some medicines in homeopathy that are so effective for migraine that they can be very safely and easily used along with depression.
And it's peace of mind for you because you don't have to worry about that.
And so helpful for the patient.
So you would say patients are also aware of that, and they're also... My idea was that a lot of patients go to their psychiatrist and they just want, their prescription to be renewed. I'm not talking about new patients, but do you see a new trend that maybe they want to get off their medicine or lower the doses and go to you?
I think patients these days are so well educated and so well informed. They come in with already armed with a lot of knowledge, and sometimes I have to help correct a few misperceptions maybe, but they usually have a lot of very good knowledge and tend to advocate for themselves, which I think is really wonderful because I like to work as a team, with my patient rather than telling them do this or that. I think we get much better rates of success if we make decisions together, listen to the patient, what they really want and need, and then I can give my best advice, and then we make decisions together.
Well, and I guess the compliance is
better that way too. Yeah, if they're part of the decision making. Yes.
And would you tell us about a few stories? I remember one that, I'm sure you have so many, but there was one that really struck me, that a young woman who couldn't drive because she was she had to drive, but she was very car sick.
Yes,
and she was taking Xanax.
That's right. There was a young lady who, you're absolutely right, she had terrible motion sickness.
And she had a long commute, right?
Long commute, and it was severely impacting her ability to even drive to work. And this came up out of the blue. She had been doing fine and all of a sudden developed this car sickness and had all kinds of workup. I wasn't going to treat her until a lot of things had been ruled out. So we had her see a neurologist and her internist and so on. There was ENT, for any problems with her ears. Everything was negative. Nothing showed up on any of the multiple tests that she had. And all her doctors kept telling her that this was anxiety-based, and she just needed to take an anti-anxiety medicine like Xanax, and that would take care of it. And it actually did. It did, because it turned out that it was indeed anxiety-based. But, if you take something like Xanax, it can make you drowsy, and then it's not very safe to be out on the road and driving.
The problem,
So when she talked to me, we decided we would try these, the homeopathic medicines that are indicated for motion sickness, and she responded beautifully, really, really well, which was very exciting.
I think that was
Tobacco.
Yes.
Yes. And again, you cannot use the same medicine for every person. You have to really take a detailed history and figure out their symptoms and so on. But for her, that was the right medication, and it really helped.
So
it really helped. And while we continued to treat for the anxiety, with psychotherapy and other medications, and over time, then she didn't need any more, and she was back to being her usual self.
Yeah.
Then another example I can give you that's been very gratifying as a physician, I do treat children who have are on the spectrum for autistic disorders, like Asperger's and autism spectrum disorders. And they can sometimes have some physical symptoms too that are very confusing and very difficult to sort through. And I've had some very good success in treating some of these children by adding on homeopathic medications. Their reaction to traditional medicines is also sometimes very different than the normal. They're overly sensitive and can have side effects that most people don't. And for these kids, homeopathy can be very, very helpful because there isn't much else that we can do when the traditional medicines don't work.
And again, I guess they don't have to struggle. You don't have to struggle with them for them to take the medicine.
Taking the medicine is so easy. There's no struggle at all.
And so, what symptoms can you treat for those children with autism?
There've been some children who've had severe mood disorders where they've been extremely sensitive to side effects of traditional medicines like SSRIs, which are like Prozac and Zoloft. And I've been able to, by taking a careful history, come up with their constitutional medicine, as we call it in homeopathy. And over time, very gradually, that has actually helped the mood without even an antidepressant.
Just to explain for people who are not too familiar, the constitutional medicine is going to be a medicine that's only for that child.
Only for that child.
And that's going to be taken like once a week. for a few months.
Once a
right?
week for a few months, yes.
So just to put them back to, the normal state or...
Exactly. It's almost like you take a shaky foundation and fix it and make it more solid.
Which is very interesting because I don't know of any other therapeutic method that does that.
Exactly.
You usually fix one problem at a time, unless maybe acupuncture that does that, but I'm not very familiar.
That can as well, but even though acupuncture needles don't really hurt, a lot of people still have the fear of needles.
Yes.
And especially with children, it's very challenging to convince them to get needles put in their body.
I would think autistic children, it's maybe even more challenging.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a little bit. Yeah, we should call them something else maybe as opposed to
needles. Yes, that's a good idea.
I think Dr. Song, the pediatrician that also teaches she said she has another name, but I forgot. Yeah, they don't want to use
the needles. Yeah, because they think of shots.
Of vaccines and...
Yeah.
Do you see, or maybe it's not a correct question, but do you have an opinion about the connection between vaccine and autism, or it's not something that's really...
I really don't have an opinion
that's
on that.
Also...
It's very controversial.
It's very controversial, yeah. But I was thinking maybe you observed just from your own experience, but it's not very clear.
No.
Yeah. No. That would be too easy, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you are with Here's to Your Health with Raphaele Cohen-Bacry, and my guest today is Dr. Maniktala, psychiatrist, and we're talking really specifically about how she incorporates homeopathy in her practice. Not many psychiatrists do it, but I think it's growing, hopefully. I don't know if you're known by other MDs, if they refer patients to you for that reason, or it's more just because of your expertise in,
No, there are several pediatricians I work with who are aware of my special interest in this, and they often refer patients to me when they think it's appropriate.
Yes.
And I think a lot of pediatricians now are also aware of the benefits of homeopathy, but not many of them are trained. And so I think they appreciate having someone who's trained in homeopathy to be able to refer to. And then there are, for my adult patients, there are some internists and gynecologists who know what I do, and I get referrals from them as well.
But this is the thing also that I think is interesting with you and other physicians, is that you are trained in homeopathy, but you are also a physician, which is really combining the best of both worlds. Because like you were saying with the patient who had motion sickness, you needed to rule out some potential dangerous things before you just jump to your homeopathy medicine. And I think it's very comforting for colleagues and for parents and patients to go to someone like you.
I would hope so, because I think first and foremost, it's I'm a physician.
Exactly, and I really like what you said about gratifying cases that are gratifying, because I hear that a lot, with physicians that tell me that discovering or going into homeopathy really brought back the pleasure of practicing and helping people, and not that that's what you were doing anyway, but be more pill pushers. And I think it's good to have several options.
Well, as I said earlier, I think just to have another tool in the toolbox is often very helpful, because especially in some of the more challenging cases, just one thing is not enough, and one approach is not enough. And there are patients for whom the traditional Western approach is what works the best, and that's what we want to use. And then there are others who may need a combined approach or strictly a homeopathic approach.
Well, and I guess there are other people, maybe they would be a good candidate, but they don't want to. And I think it's also something you have to respect. It's
absolutely, absolutely.
If you don't have the full commitment, it's not worth it.
Yes.
And do you usually refer your patients somewhere to get their medicine? That's the way you do it?
Yes. There are several pharmacies in the area that carry homeopathic medications. They're all over the counter, but there are special shops that sell it. Not everyone does.
Yes,
but
but
we're
it's
very
easy
and we're very fortunate that
in your
Whole
area.
Foods
Yes.
carries a lot, and then Sherman Oaks, there's a drugstore that carries it, and it's also very easy to order them by
Yes.
by
So
mail.
yeah.
It's not hard to obtain them. No.
Which is a big, I think it's changing a lot. It used to be a little bit more challenging, and that was a shame because, you know something is going to help your patient, but if it's not easy to get.
Yeah, some of the very specialized ones, I think we do have to order.
Yes.
And I can help them also with that. But most of the commonly used ones are available, as I said, even at Whole Foods.
Yeah, which is
very helpful.
And also, I think being the fact that the medicines are here, people get familiar with them also, and you don't have to. Once you talk about the medicines to your patient, it's not something that's new and maybe a little bit frightening.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, speaking of Whole Foods, one of the very commonly available medicines at Whole Foods that I often prescribe for the very young children who have trouble sleeping is Quietude.
Yes, it's a boron combination.
And parents love it because, again, children absolutely do not resist taking it, and it just easily just calms them down and gets them to relax and unwind and go to sleep.
And the thing I like about those,
you have,
yeah, I have because I knew you might want to talk about it. The thing I like about those medicine is that they're not like the little pellets. So for people who are not familiar with homeopathy, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but it looks like regular medicine. So
but they dissolve in the
they
mouth.
dissolve.
You don't have to swallow them.
Exactly, but it's more. They're familiar with that.
Yes.
It's a little bit easier to get, introduced to a new form of medicine. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult. And I think it's for, I never remember, it's 6 years old. Yes. Oh, no, this is, but if you're physician, you can prescribe it for.
Yeah, I don't see any harm in it.
No,
even
there
younger
isn't.
Ones
I think the
taking it.
reason why we put the age limit, it's because, like you said, it's available at the store. It's OTC. You don't need a prescription, so we don't want parents to
Just
treat
it like candy. You don't want to do that. Absolutely.
Although it tastes like candy.
Yes.
Anything else you would like to tell us about your practice or other? Maybe a little details I forgot, or
No, again, in going back to some of the patients who've been helped a lot with homeopathic approaches, I don't think I mentioned anxiety disorders.
Oh, yes, yeah,
it can be very, very helpful for that.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain medicines that are especially good for anticipatory anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, children who absolutely freeze with anxiety when it comes to taking exams, or they're so anxious about what's coming up the next day that they cannot even fall asleep. And there are medicines that can be, or if there's a big medical procedure they have to go through, there are homeopathic medicines that can be very effective, and we don't always need to resort to something like Xanax, which can have its own set of side effects. Sometimes we do, but often even the homeopathic medicines can be very helpful.
Well, and something I think I know which one you're talking about, but also if you're going to take a test, maybe that's not the right time for you to try Xanax for the first time, right? Because you don't know
be sleepy.
and you don't know how you're going to react.
Yeah.
So if it's a one-time thing or maybe 2 days or a week of a test, I would definitely go for the homeopathic medicine. That's an excellent point. Yes. I remember using it myself.
Okay.
So again, you are listening to Here's to Your Health. I'm Raphaele Cohen-Bacry, and my guest today was Dr. Maniktala, psychiatrist, Sherman Oaks. Thank you so much, Dr. Maniktala.
Thank you, Raphaele. Thank you.
So we'll see you in a few minutes. Thank you.
This is Brett Chapin.
And this is Dorothy Dillingham Blue, inviting you to join us every Saturday at noon Pacific Standard Time for our show, La La Land Talk.
Join us as we talk with some of the top talent in LA. Artists' untold stories, your phone calls, and live on-location broadcasts have made La La Land one of the best sources in LA for everything entertainment.
So don't forget to tune in to La La Land Talk.
Exclusively on latalklive.com.
You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com.
Saturdays at noon Pacific Time. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/LaLaLandTalk, Twitter, twitter.com/LaLaLandTalk. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live.
And we are more than just talk.
Hey, shout us out. What's the count? I'm your host, Ferran Dozier. I'm inviting you to join me on WDC Radio every Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time as we discuss community topics around health, sports, and entertainment. So don't forget to shout us out. What's the count? On WDC Radio, only on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we're more than just talk. What's the count?
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live television network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. My special guest is Raphaele Cohen-Bacry, my co-host on Here's to Your Health. And Raphaele Cohen-Bacry, of course, is a registered pharmacist and the educator for boron homeopathic medicines. Raphaele, welcome to the July edition of Here's to Your Health.
Thank you, Josh. It
Happy
was
to
a
have
pleasure.
you here. Thank you. Happy to have you here. And are we doing some stuff today, homeopathic ideas for the summer?
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to be on vacation soon, so I brought some ideas, and I thought, okay, what do I want to bring with me on my trip? And I thought a lot of people might relate. You know,
I think so, yes.
Some people don't
Sure.
travel, you know, of course, but they might in the future. So I thought, yeah, let's see something that, you know, are very commonly happening.
Sure.
Not necessarily really serious stuff, but first of all, and we'll go into more detail, but please bring your arnica and your calendula with you. You're going to use them. Unfortunately, I'm sure there's one or two occasions when you're going to use your arnica. It's for muscle soreness. So even if you're not sick, but you're just, you know, work out or go on a hike, or even on the plane, you can get body aches, muscle aches.
You mean just kind of sitting still for too long, you kind of stiff?
Yes, yes. So that you can use it for so many occasions. Trauma, you twist your ankle. It's not serious, but still it's swollen.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to use your arnica. And it, again, like everything else we're going to cover today, the sooner the better. So it's better to bring it with you than thinking, oh, okay, if I need it, I will, you know. Especially if you travel, you know, outside of the country, if you go to maybe an area where they're not really familiar with those medications. Take your arnica, arnica gel or cream. Calendula is going to be really great, and I'll go over it. But for any kind of skin irritations, sunburns, other burns, bee stings, so those two, you really, if you can bring them with you. There's a smaller version of the Arnicare gel that you can put in your carry-on. It's small enough.
And you're bringing the Arnicare, which is from Arnica, Montana, because I use it for any kind of sports event I'm going to do. If I'm going to play a lot of tennis and I have my elbow. Okay, right. Okay.
Absolutely. So those two are really very important. And then we have Boron has what we call a travel kit, but you don't necessarily need all the medicine that are here. So you can also customize your own kit. We even have little boxes where you can put 3 to 5 tubes. So you can really, depending on where you're going, because I'm going to talk, for example.
This is actually very stylish.
It is. Yeah.
And this is for a family?
It's for a family. It's like 20. different medicines. But again, my kit, I changed a little bit. I put like 2 arnica instead of 1. I removed 1 or 2 because I know I don't have those issues. Or like I'm going to cover, for example, a jellyfish sting. So,
yes,
and
jellyfish
it's not
sting.
in the kit.
That'd be a drag, wouldn't it? Yeah.
So if you know you're going to go to an area where there are jellyfish, maybe you want to add the medicine. So
Well, if you go to South Florida, you can get bit in the season because there's a certain season when the jellyfish are out there.
And it's so painful.
And they can give you a nice big sting, and
Yes.
it can last for a long time.
And there's not a lot of things you can do,
No, that's
actually,
right, there
beside that. So, yeah.
And what do you do for jellyfish sting?
Actually, first of all, you probably know, but some people don't know. Get out of the water as soon as you can because you can get stung more. And also sometimes it's very painful and you might, drown or,
Oh, yeah, right.
Cold water is not a good idea. It actually makes it worse. Those tentacles,
Yes.
they have like little sacs of venom, and cold water makes the little sacs to burst and release more venom. So no cold water. And you want to get rid of the tentacles, as soon as possible. Don't use your hands. Use a towel. Even better, a credit card. You can just shave the tentacles so the little sacs don't open and make it worse. And there's one medicine that's really, I would carry it in my bag if I go to a beach and I know there are jellyfish, or even if I'm not sure. It's called Urtica urens. It's from the stinging nettle.
That's homeopathic.
It's homeopathy.
Okay, let me hear that again.
Urtica urens. Urtica, like urticaria.
No, I don't know it. No.
It's the Latin name for the plant. But
Okay.
actually, just as a side note, on my blog, I have all those information, so you can just put jellyfish, and you're gonna get my post. That
Well,
tells
give us your blog again.
Oh, it's called www.foryourowngood.org. foryourowngood.org. It's one word, and it's a little blog that I do on the side. But there are a lot of very common.
And could you
condition.
spell that homeopathic medicine that I use for
jellyfish?
Jellyfish, yeah.
Yes, it's Urtica, Urtica urens, URENS.
Does that come in the little tiny tabs?
It's like I don't have it in this kit. That's why I would add it, but it comes like those little
And how many would I take of those?
I would take 5 pellets as soon as possible, and then every 10 minutes, with it for an hour. And it really the edema, because that's what is bothersome. It's the edema, the pain, the stingy, the itchiness, and that's going to go down really quickly. And not much you can do, beside that. So that's something I would carry. So that was just to describe.
And whenever you're on this on the show, and we talk about very specific things that the homeopathic medications can do, why are we allowed to do that?
Because those products are FDA regulated as drugs, so as opposed to supplements and vitamins and herbs. So those are part of the medicines.
So in other words, these are regulated in the United States as drugs, and so you're allowed to make specific claims for exactly what they do.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
That seems very important.
It is, yeah, and I'm glad you bringing up the.
Well, people of course really need to hear this, and people I think when they read the packages, it's so specific. Sometimes people kind of smile. They say, "Oh, if I feel hot and cold." And something else, and people are like, that seems terribly specific and almost amusing, and yet it seems to work.
It does, but also that's why my guest before said that she went through a training. If it was just one symptom, one medicine, you wouldn't have to go to a training.
Right.
You would have a big book, right? And jellyfish and this. But jellyfish is an easy one. But for many other conditions, like she was saying, motion sickness, I'm not having the same symptoms when I have motion sickness as you do. So I don't need the same medicine than you. So that's why you really need to have that expertise to be able to treat people correctly. In our case, I'm not talking to physician on the show. I'm talking to, potential patients.
Right.
So that's why I'm always trying to give the easy medicines, like jellyfish. It's easy. That's Urtica urens. But in other cases, it's not.
And Urtica urens, what else can I use that for?
It's pretty typical of the edema that's relieved by heat. as opposed to, I don't know if you remember when several times we talked about Apis mellifera from the
Apis, I know now
honeybee.
because of you. Yes,
I know you
yes,
know.
yes.
So this is, you would think, oh, maybe I could use Apis if I get stung by, but
Right.
no, because Apis is relieved by cold. So this is how you distinguish. Those medicines are really close. They almost do the same thing, but one is going to work in one case for the jellyfish that is relieved by warm water as opposed to cold water that makes it worse. And Apis, it's going to be for sore throat, when you want to drink cold water and it helps. So that's getting into a lot of details, but it's just for people to understand why we have so many medicines, because it seems a lot. And sometimes you have several medicines for the same indication, like fever. We have a lot of medicines for fever because, you can have a mild fever that came very little by little and that's not very bad, or you can have a fever that happens suddenly and very high. So it's not the same medicine that you're going to use. So that's just to make it a little bit more approachable. So that's that kit you can bring with you, or again you can just choose. If you don't go to the beach, maybe you're not gonna need to take your Urtica urines. If you go to the mountain, so
well, how about this? What if I get bit by a spider when I'm climbing around somewhere in the pine trees, something like that? So do you have anything for spider bites?
It's going to be more on working on the symptoms. So if you have an edema and it's hot and if you're going to apply cold compress and it's going to help, you might want to use Apis. If you're very allergic and you have like a bigger reaction, not life-threatening, but maybe you want to take your Apis and histaminum, which is typical of allergies. So, but it really depends on the symptoms in that case.
Okay, I have a question which I seem to get on a regular basis. Is there a homeopathic remedy, or even just a supplement remedy that you know of, for mosquito bites? Is there anything that minimizes the chance of mosquitoes biting us? I do not know of anything. Is there anything?
No. I think I'm always confusing vitamin B1. No, which vitamin?
I don't know. Some people claim that B vitamins help, but I've never found it to be terribly effective, and I just don't know.
No, it's very interesting. My brother moved to Quebec, and they have a lot of mosquitoes. So we just had that conversation. He said the same thing. He said, "Yeah, I heard about the vitamin B, but it doesn't help." No, we don't have anything to prevent. And actually, homeopathy usually is not really something you want to use in prevention.
I see.
In some rare cases, taking it before, if you're going to be exposed to something, might help because it just gets in your system early on. But it's not really the way we use it. There's a medicine that you can take when you get stung by mosquitoes. It's called Ledum palust. It's also it's from a plant, and it's
oh really
Latin name. It seems to help with the mosquito bite, but nothing that I know of that would prevent it, which is a shame because I think we could make a lot of money.
and speaking of, I think we're good. Speaking of flowers, this Arnica montana, this is from the mountain flower, the mountain daisy?
The mountain daisy, yes.
And this grows in the United States?
Yes, and in Europe, Northern Europe, if I'm not mistaken. And calendula is also a plant.
And the Arnica montana, this is, I believe, the #1 selling homeopathic preparation worldwide. Is that correct?
I would think so, yes. Yeah, it's very, very popular because you can use it in so many different contexts.
And the athletes all use it?
The athlete, it's just wonderful. And actually, that was also part of the things I wanted to talk about. Wanted to see what you can do when you're flying, what medicines you can bring with you.
You mean on the airplane?
On the airplane. Yeah. And a lot of people suffer from heavy legs, right? The legs getting swollen and painful. And
is that from just sitting too much?
It's sitting. It's the pressure. It's because you're not drinking properly. You cannot bring your water anymore. So it's a lot of. Or sometimes you don't want to drink because you don't want to have to go to the bathrooms because you're like next to the window. So, and some people are more prone to it. Usually people know when they're going to have legs. So of course the regular, get up, drink water. Obviously, but there are some medicine that I can tell you about. But arnica is definitely one of the medicines you should take. both sublingually, the pellets, Arnica montana, and also when you get to destination, you just massage your legs with arnica gel, and it really makes a big difference. So that's something that can be bothersome. It takes a few days for the legs to go back to and it's painful, and it can be of course, if you have really a very severe pain, you might want to just be sure it's not phlebitis.
Right.
It can be.
So I could put this on during the flight.
It's not always easy, honestly. If you can, it's wonderful, but I would take the pellets. It's just easier. And then when you get, out of the plane and you get to your hotel or to your house, that's when.
And how many pellets would I take?
You always take 5. I know my mom is very, unfortunately, she gets a lot of leg pain, even not necessarily when she's flying, but it's even worse when she's flying. So I always tell her to start 2 days before, and she combines, you're going to love it, she combines arnica and vipera ready, which is from a snake venom.
Oh, I see. Oh, my goodness.
And one day she asked me, she said, I cannot take it. It's a long flight for her to come here. It's 16 hours or...
Flying from France.
From France, but she has to connect somewhere, so it's very tiring. And so I did some research. I asked her a few questions, and there was one question that, made me know what she needed. I said, when you sit on a chair or a table, if you go to the doctor and he's going to examine you, and you sit on the table and your feet don't reach floor, and you have your legs dangling, does it bother you? And she said, it's horrible. I just hate it. I cannot stand my legs dangling without, touching floor. And that was typical of that Vipera ready. And now she takes 5 pellets of arnica, 5 pellets of Vipera 2 to 3 times a day, 2 days before the flight. And she carries on 2 to 3 days when she arrives, and she doesn't have those issues.
Let me have those 2 homeopathic medications again for your mom.
Arnica montana.
Arnica montana, yeah.
6C or 30C, it doesn't really matter. 5 pellets 2 to 3 times a day. And the other one is Vipera ready, 6C. And same thing, 5 pellets 2 to 3 times a day. And that's very typical of heavy legs that get really worse.
And your mom reports back to you that this works.
Oh, she wouldn't spare me if it doesn't.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Sometimes
She's
I'm
your
wrong.
Mom, that's good,
and I want her to feel better. It's nice, and she doesn't have to worry about. We've said it so many times, but about being having reactions or any kind of allergy or side effects or being drowsy. So it's really. She also she likes to use a little jet lag combination, because she's also very sensitive to, it's difficult. It's 9-hour time difference. So we also have a little cocktail for her. There are a lot of things you can work on with homeopathy related to traveling.
Sure.
The other thing also, I didn't bring it, but a lot of people tell me they get sick when they're flying.
You mean like food poisoning or something?
Well, food poisoning, we have something too, but I was more thinking about like cold or,
We have some, because food poisoning is like
big
serious
one.
business.
Yes.
I did not realize you had anything.
There's a wonderful medicine.
really?
Yes. I would take it with me anywhere. I have it at home, obviously, but when I travel, even in, Western countries, because sometimes you just,
you're unlucky, boy.
Yeah.
Nice and sick.
And it can really spoil the whole experience.
Oh, it certainly can.
Yeah.
And what homeopathic preparation is
so
that?
This is called Arsenicum album.
Arsenicum album?
Arsenicum album.
Oh, my goodness.
It's a classic for food poisoning. Really great, also on kids when, they have diarrhea and vomiting and they get really dehydrated. So you really want to act really very fast. Of course, if you need to see the doctor, obviously you go, but you can still start your Arsenicum album regardless.
Okay, so if someone goes out to dinner and then maybe an hour later or maybe the next morning they are suddenly throwing up and they have diarrhea, not pleasant, and they think, okay, we all got food poisoning from eating X.
Yes.
What's my next step?
Well, first of all, if I'm not mistaken, usually food poisoning happens within a few hours. If it's the next morning, it's more likely that you got maybe indigestion or so. But really, those symptoms, like diarrhea, nausea, and vomiting, this is very likely food poisoning. You're going to take your arsenicum album, 5 pellets under your tongue, which is fantastic because very often you cannot keep anything.
Right.
So not having to swallow a pill and water can really help also. So you just put 5 pellets under your tongue. You try to just let it sit there. And sometimes you need a few intakes before really it works. And you're going to do it, if you need it every 15 minutes, do it every 15 minutes. This is the difference between homeopathy and what we call allopathic medicines, where you really need to, respect what the doctor says 3 times a day and not 4, because you might get
toxic reaction.
Yes. Right. But here, if you need it more often, you just take it more often. You're gonna feel better, and you're gonna take it less often.
Let me have that remedy again for food poisoning.
Arsenicum album.
Arsenicum album. And you're telling me that if someone is in the bathroom throwing up, so they're pretty sick, and they take arsenicum album, that really, how long before they think, I feel a little better?
Well,
it's a broad question.
Yes, but you should feel better pretty fast. I'm not saying totally fine, but you should feel a little bit better, less nauseous, and you're not going to go to the bathroom as often. If this is food poisoning, right? If this is due to something else, it might be a virus and you're only vomiting. So, it's maybe you're going to have to combine it with something else.
I see.
Depending on your symptoms.
And shall I take the arsenicum album? Is that a 6C as well?
You can take 6C, you can take 30C. I'm not very, when you're in that stage, you're not going to say, oh, no, this is not the 6, it's the I'm not going to take whatever you have. I know the kit we have here, we all put it in 30C because it's going to work most of the time. So you see here, arsenicum album 30C, so it's gonna work. Yeah, don't worry too much.
And I would use it, say 5 little pellets every 15 minutes?
For 1 hour, and then you're not going to need it as often, maybe every 2 hours, and then maybe just 1 or 2 times, and you should be fine.
Okay.
Sometimes you do need to throw up to get rid of the toxic food, so that you have to accept it.
Okay, so this sounds like a dangerous trip you're taking. What else do we need on a trip when we go on vacation?
Okay, so we took care of. I'm sorry. I just wanted to tell you, on the plane, or even if you're just traveling to another time zone, very often you get tired and you might get something like the flu or flu-like symptoms, and that's when you want to take your oscillococcinum.
Right.
So that's also something I take when I'm I know I'm going to fly. I can combine it with vitamin C just to strengthen your immune system. I think vitamin C is a good thing to add.
And why do I need belladonna when I travel?
Belladonna, that could be for fever.
I see.
A high fever. That could also be for sunburn.
Oh, really?
Sunburn. It's pretty amazing. Actually, if you combine belladonna and apis, you're going to treat both the edema and the sensation of heat, and the redness. This is an excellent combination. I've used it myself, unfortunately, not so long ago. For
too much sun?
Yeah, and not enough sunscreen, I guess.
Well, how much is too much sun for you?
That was, too many hours. It was in March, and I didn't think the sun was so strong, because that's the problem, as opposed to a thermal burn when you burn yourself with hot water. The sunburn is caused by the UV radiation, and even when it's hazy, the UV still gets to your skin, but you don't feel the heat,
right?
Because it's not the heat that causes the burn. So you might get a sunburn, and a lot of people get, they don't know that because it's hazy, they don't feel the heat, and they think they're not going to burn, but you do. So I would always wear sunscreen, and maybe try to avoid, from noon to 4. Really sitting in the sun is not a good idea, because the thing is that we need sun for our vitamin D. But when you repeatedly get sunburned, it damages your cells.
Right.
And fortunately, our body is so amazing that you can repair your cells. But if you really repeat the aggression over and over, some cells are not going to repair, and they're going to turn into cancer.
Right, potentially.
So
let me have your remedy once again for sunburn.
Oh, but I want to be really clear. This is to treat the sunburn. This is not. It's not going to protect you against sunburn. and the damages are done. The damage is done, right? So it's just going to help you repair quicker, not be in pain, and also hopefully, especially if you combine it with the calendula topically, maybe you're not going to peel, and you're not going to have scars or things like that. So as soon as you feel, and that's also something that's a little bit misleading, you don't feel. Usually the pain comes 6 to, I would say, 24 hours, sometimes even 48 hours after the sun exposure. So you don't necessarily know that you got a sunburn. But if you see that your skin is red and you have that sensation of warmth, that's because your blood vessels are vasodilating, and so the inflammation reaction is starting. So that's when I would really put my calendula, thin layer of calendula, either ointment or lotion. That's why at the beginning I told you take your calendula.
Sure.
So you're going to repeat that because it's going to absorb really quickly if you have a sunburn. And you're going to combine your Apis mellifica and belladonna. Both you can use 30C or 6C, whatever you have with you. 5 pellets, and if you want a better result, you're going to use it every 15 minutes. Again, because it's very acute. So you have a lot of symptoms. It's local. You're going to take every 15 minutes. And then I would think after an hour like that, you can do only 2 hours, 5 pellets of each every 2 hours, and then maybe twice or 3 times a day. Within 3 to 5 days, you should really get total relief.
All right, that's good.
And, hopefully not peeling.
Right.
And get a nice suntan. So that's how you can use belladonna. The other thing I can also give you some.
Just to go back to belladonna. Belladonna is derived from what?
It's the nightly shade, which is a poisonous flower. So, but again, because here it's a homeopathic dilution of the plant extract, it's totally safe. You can use it in babies for fevers. So it's one of the classic medicine. The other thing that you might have what we call swimmer ear.
Oh,
that
swimmer's ear. Lots of drag,
swimmer's
isn't it?
ear.
Yeah.
Yes. We call it swimmer ear because it's just when you swim, you might have some water in your ear, but it can also happen if you're not a swimmer. It's just, for example, if you use those Q-tips and you're damaging the lining of your ear canal, that's an open door for infection, and it's not very pleasant. It can develop into, otitis externa and get all pussy. So better to keep your ears dry. And also, I see all those kids going around with the headphones, and
that could be a problem, can it?
Yes, yeah. I'm not sure they clean that really well. But anyway, so hopefully we won't get it with.
Yes.
So that there's a good medicine for that also. That's not very well known. It's not even in the kit. But again, if you know you're prone to swimmer's ear, you might want to take capsicum, which is from the chili pepper. And that's very typical, when you have that stabbing pain, the otalgia. So it's not necessarily the infection already, because I'm afraid when you get the infection, you need the antibiotics anyway. But really, when you can feel it coming and it's pulsing, you're going to take capsicum, 6C, 5 pellets 3 times a day, and very likely you're gonna get rid of the pain.
Good. Well, Raphaele Cohen-Bacry of Boron Homeopathic Medicines, thank you for being guest today on Here's to Your Health. Enjoy your summer vacation.
You'll see me when I'm back.
Very good. This is Josh Lane with Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Transmedia Network. Thank you for tuning in. We will see you next week.
For more information about the guests and sponsors of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, please call us at 818-707-0005.